is limited. Can you introduce yourself and let me know, I guess, why you're an atheist? Is there a problem with theism in general? Is it religion mostly? And why is it that you're inspired to do what you do?
I'm Max. I'm the host of Shadow Amate Talks on YouTube. I've been an atheist my whole life. I used to go to a kindergarten attached to a Catholic school. And the first time that I remember one of the nuns talking to me about God, it didn't really make any sense. And I come from a place, I'm from Uruguay, where 45% of people are atheists. And the other 45% is mostly Catholics, but I had never met a religious fundamentalist until I started getting more in touch with people from the US. So when I started hearing about God, it didn't make much sense. I spoke with my mom, and my mom had gone to that same school, and she basically said the same thing as, the nun. So that also made no sense. So I spoke with my dad, and my dad explained why he doesn't believe, and that kind of.
And how old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
5.
You were 5 years old, and you were looking for a real kind of progressional, logical reasoning. So I'm imagining like you never believed in like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus, everything that didn't make sense. You rejected out of hand?
No, well,
as a 5-year-old?
When my parents, with my parents, I believed in Santa because they would tell me that that was. I had the logic of a 5-year-old, right? So it's not that I have the arguments that I have now, but the idea in itself didn't make much sense. But then my parents kind of did go on to lie to me about the Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and so on. So it was a big shock when I found about like 2 years later, I actually found out that they had been lying about that, and that was a big shock. And then I didn't think about that anymore until I got to high school, where I started meeting people wearing crosses and wearing Stars of David and so on. And there it was more a proactive thing, like, okay, I don't believe in this. Why is it that I don't believe? And I started reading the Bible, and there it kind of cemented in like, oh yeah. Mostly because by the time I read the Bible for the first time, I was already big into into other mythologies. So I was very knowledgeable on Greek mythology and Norse mythology.
And how old are you at this point?
37.
No. I mean, at the point at which you're
in high school.
Gotcha. So this is high school age. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. In Uruguay, we have 6 years of primary school and 6 years of high school.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have 4 years of high school here. So let me know. I mean, now at this point, you and I are only separated by a couple of years in age. Why is it that you don't believe in God today?
I don't see a reason to believe. And the more it depends. The arguments that I use depends on what position the other people take. But for example, when I was preparing for the debate that got canceled, my biggest argument was the unreliability of the Bible in general, and in particular, the unreliability of the Gospels.
Gotcha. And so that would be a critique against religion and not theism. So
Well,
is your critique mostly a critique of religion, or is it mostly of theism in general?
No, I can critique all of it.
Got it. So let's start with your critique of God, of the idea of God, and then if we can settle that and maybe then we can kind of broaden and open up the religious critique. So let's start with God, without any religion. Why don't you believe in God?
Well,
And maybe that's unfair. Maybe we should be asking why I believe as opposed to why there's an absence of belief on your
if
part.
you want to tell me why you believe, then maybe I can work off of that, because I have
I
a
would- I-
broad set of reasons, and then depending on what other people say, I have more specific ones.
Sure, yeah, and I think that would totally be fair, and I would love to have you. I think I said this in our email correspondence. I would like to have you like poke holes in my reasoning here because it's not all the way fleshed out, and so I would love to kind of hear your perspective on what I think here. So I think as science advances, it's letting us know more and more that the secondary properties are not fundamental. And what I mean by secondary properties are things like color, things like taste, things like sound. These things aren't really in the universe. At best, they're transjective properties, meaning they transcend the subject-object distinction. They depend on minds, right? Minds interacting with nature. And so whatever is fundamentally real is going to lack color. It's going to lack taste. It's going to lack texture. It's going to lack any of the mind-dependent things. Is that fair to
Well,
start with?
for example, taste. You can
Yeah,
consider you can consider your opinion towards taste. Like, for example, my favorite ice cream is blackberry ice cream,
there you go.
and yours might be vanilla, but
Never.
there is an objective fact that there are compounds in the ice cream that produce taste for you, for me, and for everyone that are there. What is the interpretative part of that is whether if you like it or if you prefer something else or if you don't like it. That is the subjective part. But the compounds, the chemical compounds are objective and they're there.
Okay, so you would say, I think you would agree with me, and I think maybe it's a good idea to start with points of agreement. You would agree that reality doesn't have color. Like reality is not blue or green. These things appear in the mind whenever light interacts with our eyes, and then the brain does something. Same thing with sound, right? Sound waves make the eardrum vibrate.
Yeah, but they're objective. They are.
Are you saying sound? Are you saying sound is objective?
Yeah. Look, hold on, if I can move to the side. Oh, damn. If you see there, I have vinyl decks here. I'm a DJ and I'm a producer. Kind of sound is kind of my wheelhouse.
I love
sound
that.
is subjective. If you produce a square wave at 50 hertz, it produces the same sound everywhere, regardless if someone listens to it or not. The air will move at that frequency.
Right, but airwaves are not what we mean by sound. So yeah, I think
that's exactly what it is.
Well, the reason I disagree is like I'm studying acoustic phonetics, so that's different than DJing, right? But under the umbrella of linguistics, you're studying articulatory phonetics, acoustic phonetics, and auditory phonetics. And one of the first things they teach you in auditory phonetics is that sound is not in the universe. What occurs is that a sound wave enters the eardrum vibrates, then the cochlea translates that vibration into an electrical signal sent to the brain, and then the mind creates the adaptive illusion that we call sound. So if you're saying that a wave is sound, I think that you are confusing a process with a phenomena. You're confusing a process with a qualia state, right? Because what it feels like to hear something, sound, is different than the way that sound is produced. And maybe that's something, maybe that's I don't want to spend too much time if that's something that we can't overcome. But do you disagree with that?
Yeah, because how that sound makes you feel. If I play a C major chord, how that sound makes you feel. Yes, I accept that is subjective. I actually know people that have the perception of music inverse. So if you play a happy chord, they feel that that's a melancholic chord. But the wave that you produce or that a violin produces, that wave is subjective. If there was no one there,
right, I would agree with
wave,
you.
That wave would just be there.
I think that I agree, at least in principle, that that's correct. I think where you and I are disagreeing is that you're saying a sound and a wave are the same thing, and I'm saying that one is the product of the other.
Well, you're calling the sound the subjective part. I just call the sound the whole thing.
Okay, if we're talking about if we are going to let's say abandon our own personal perspectives and say like what is sound according to science, right? Because we want to be. I mean, I don't think we want to.
The thing with science is that it doesn't really make your case if you're going to make a scientific appeal to God. That's that.
I think scientists are theists. Some scientists are atheists. I mean, science is theology, or the existence of God is just outside of the scientific wheelhouse, just like metaphysics would be. But it doesn't mean that a scientist would, necessarily be an atheist or a theist.
I know that.
Study nature, yeah, right.
I know.
Okay,
that.
but so are we at least agreed? And this is kind of my case here. But it may crumble based on this first critique. If you're saying that the universe is something that has sounds regardless of ears, or that ears have nothing to do with sound.
No, I would hold that the sounds are still there, even though if a tree falls down in the middle of the forest, the sound will still travel through the air, even though there's no one there to hear it.
So you think sounds travel through the air and not waves?
Basically I'm using it as a synonym. Yeah, the wave, but the wave is the sound, because the wave moves your cochlea, because of the shape of the wave, of the physical shape of the wave.
Right, exactly. And so the eardrum vibrates based on the wave shape. The cochlea translates that vibration to an electrical signal. None of that is sound. Sound is the end result, that the qualia state, the noise. But if we put that aside, and I were to say the same thing about sight, would you say color exists without eyes?
The same. We have the same thing. It's the waves.
Right, and so you're.
But that can be measured. You can measure the waves. So I think what is happening here right now is that you're coming more from a technical point of view. Like you're diving deep into the science of sound, the science of color. I'm just using the normal colloquialism. So when you see red, you see the red wavelength of light. I would call that the light.
And I love how Neil deGrasse Tyson puts it with color. He said that when you're looking at the color of an object, you're seeing the exact thing that object is not. Because what the object has done is it has absorbed all the colors in the spectrum and rejected the color that you're seeing, right? And so without eyes, not only would there be like no color, like what you're seeing is truly an adaptive illusion, right? And so I think, just to make a long story short here, I don't think that fundamentally there is color, texture, space, or time. I don't think any of those things are fundamental. I think all of those are adaptive data compression tools in order for human beings to achieve our evolutionary chores. And so all that leaves is consciousness. So I believe consciousness is fundamental. I'm an idealist. And I think out of that fundamental consciousness arises the illusion of separation. And so what is fundamental is what I would call God. Omniscient, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, creator of the universe.
Okay. The problem with that, so is God inside of the universe or outside?
Inside and outside would both I would say the universe is inside of God. So the Bible, for instance, says, in him we live and move and have our being. So all of this is occurring within God, and there is nothing outside of God.
So God is physical?
No. As a matter of fact, I think physics is a data compression tool as well, right? So qualities come before quantities. I think we learned in like the days of like Galileo that we can quantify the qualities of existence, but qualities came first. There was just largeness, and then we decided to measure that largeness and turn the quality of largeness into quantities like inches and yards, right? So we have the history of quantities. We don't have the history of qualities.
Yeah,
that's far more ancient.
The quantities correlate to actual physical things.
Yeah.
I mean, this I don't regularly talk with idealists, but when you said, for example, there's no space-time. I mean, we can measure space-time. You can see how space-time masses in space-time curve the fabric of space-time itself, which gives us gravity.
Yeah, I agree that we can measure space-time, and that's why I don't believe it's fundamental, right? Just like I can say that this phone is black, right? But to say that blackness has some fundamental reality is just to superimpose human limitations on ontology, right? Why would we do that? Why should we suppose that apes who have this short evolutionary phase have stumbled across what reality is just because we've found a series of adaptive tools, right? So that's what science is. Science is a series of very adaptive tools that help us predict the future. What does that have to do about what's fundamentally real? Science is about what's helpful. It's a pragmatic discipline.
But don't you think that the physical world is the fundamental part of everything?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, time and space have no operational meaning beyond the Planck scale. I mean, they've understood that in high energy physics for the last 20 years or so.
What do you mean by what you said just now?
I think it's time is like 10 to the negative 33 seconds is like the Planck measure of time, beyond which time has no operational meaning in physics. So if you look at fundamental physicists like Nima Arkani Hamed, or mathematicians like Ed Witten. Ed Witten is probably the greatest mathematician in history. Both of them agree that space and time are not fundamental. They emerge out of more fundamental processes, and they're trying to kind of figure that out right now. But there's a lot of lectures coming out of high energy physics that say space and time are doomed. They're not fundamentally real. There's something our minds are doing in order to have an adaptive experience of whatever the heck this is, right? But you've heard of like the holographic principle, that the universe is essentially two-dimensional, all the weird stuff that's coming out of quantum mechanics.
Until there's something more definitive, I don't really. The holographic principle seems odd at the very, to be kind. But I still don't understand how, okay, if we have this fundamental layer of reality, which you told me is inside God, but God isn't physical, then where are we?
Well, where are we assumes space and time is fundamental. Where assumes space and time, right? But there is no where to where you fundamentally are. And I think that I can demonstrate that phenomenologically if you want to give me a second.
Wait, but I'm here.
And you would be here if you left that room too. No, right. wherever you go, you are here.
I'm here. Yes.
Yeah.
So there is a correlation,
and you will never
map out my coordinates in physical space.
Sure, and I think that that's an adaptive and persistent illusion.
Why would you define it as an illusion when, for example, if my here is in the coordinates that is in the path of a car, then bad stuff will happen, and I will probably no longer be here.
Right, and I would borrow from the cognitive scientist at UC Irvine, Don Hoffman. I'm sorry. He says you should take space and time very seriously. You just shouldn't take it literally, right? So yeah, you should take space and time seriously in that you shouldn't walk into traffic. but don't assume that just because your body has a certain interaction with a vehicle that you're talking about what's fundamental.
I don't see the justification to say that the physical world is not the fundamental. To me, that is the fundamental layer of reality. It's naturalism and physicalism.
Well, if that's true, then how do you get around the hard problem as posited by David Chalmers? Are you familiar with the hard problem?
The hard problem of what?
Of consciousness. The question is, how does non-conscious bits of matter, how do non-conscious bits of matter become what it feels like to taste chocolate or what it feels like to experience heartbreak?
I see that as an emergent property of the brain. For example, hydrogen and oxygen, hydrogen and oxygen naturally occurring are gases, but you combine them together, they bind, and the emergent property of wetness appears with water, the compound that they make. So
are you appealing to weak emergence or strong emergence when you say that consciousness is emergent from brain states?
Yeah, I don't know the distinction between both weak and strong. What I know is that
weak emergence is something that we can demonstrate in a model. For instance, on the computer, we can model on a computer system how sand dunes are weakly emergent from desert and wind. Like a computer can model that. If you're appealing to strong emergence, you're just saying I don't know, and I hope in the future we'll find out. It's like a promissory note. So I don't think that it can be demonstrated via weak emergence how consciousness arises from brain states, because all we have is neural correlates, and correlation isn't causation.
But in the case of the brain, I would say that it is causation, because you see, they put on that little helmet that reads your brain waves, and they poke you, and they track the whole thing.
You're talking about like an electroencephalogram, where they're they'll poke you, and then they can see a region of the brain light up.
Mm-hmm. There's also a new one of those that can actually like read your dreams, and it generates images of what you're seeing inside your head.
Sure. Now those are correlations. So I would agree with you that brain states correlate with states of mind, but you're saying something vastly different than that. You're saying that the brain and fluctuations within that brain produce as an emergent effect consciousness, which is the only thing we know exists. Like the only thing I know for sure exists is awareness, right? Everything else could be a sophisticated illusion.
Yeah, but that doesn't. The problem is that you can't do like solipsism and take the God exit strategy. That doesn't work.
What does that mean?
That we can intersubjectively agree that you're there and I'm here. If you were to come up to me and slap me in the face, it would have a physical effect.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like I'm more skeptical than you are, because I think what a physicalist wants to say is A, I am conscious, right? B, you are also conscious, or there are other conscious beings. So far, the idealist is with you, by the way. But then you say C, there is something outside of awareness. I don't know what that is. But then you say D, whatever is outside of awareness produces awareness. And so the idealist is just more skeptical than the physicalist. I'll say, yes, I'm conscious. I'll even say, yes, you're conscious, even though there's no defeater for solipsism. I agree with you there.
Yeah, but
I can say it's more reasonable to assume that you are conscious, because when you touch something hot, you have the same response as me, right? So I think it's reasonable to assume that both of us are conscious. But then you want to say, I think, that there is something outside of awareness.
No.
And so you don't think there's anything outside of awareness? So you would agree with me? Everything is inside of.
I said no because I don't know what you mean by that, and I'm pretty sure I didn't say that. So
I'm sorry.
What do you mean when you say something outside of awareness?
I apologize. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. If you are a physicalist, you believe that awareness is produced by some fluctuations, whether it's mass, charge, momentum, amplitude, frequencies, vibrations, that
Yeah.
something beyond awareness itself produces awareness as a byproduct. If you believe that's true, then there's something happening outside of awareness.
Wait, but are you referring now to awareness as consciousness or
Correct.
Okay. Right, but my consciousness is me being aware of my factory, like my senses, that they're built to touch, they're built to see, they're built to listen, to taste, and to smell, right?
I'm saying, as a physicalist, you are saying extra things. You already agree with what I believe. You already agree that there is consciousness. That's goes without saying. And you already believe that you give me the benefit of the doubt. You say I'm conscious as well, even though you don't have the experience of.
I don't think it's benefit of the doubt. I think that I intersubjectively can very perfectly justify that you're there, because if we were in the same room, we could high five each other.
Perfect. I mean, I think you could high five a sophisticated robot that wouldn't be conscious. I mean, but either way, we agree there. We agree
but
that
the robot would still be there.
Right, but it wouldn't be conscious. You're giving me the benefit of the doubt on consciousness, and so that's fair. I think we can meet there. What confuses me, and I think every other idealist, is that the physicalist now wants to take a third step and say, yes, I am aware, you are aware, and there's something outside of awareness producing awareness. And that's where the idealist takes the skeptical.
Outside of where? Because it's not outside, it's inside. There is nothing outside.
Now I'm confused. So what the idealist wants to say is that fundamentally there is consciousness. You disagree, right?
I say fundamentally there are brains and matter and energy.
No, and maybe brains are not fundamental. That's not a reduction base in metaphysics. So
Are
what
you
I'm
sure?
asking,
What
I'm
happens?
sure.
What happens if your brain gets severed from your body? Are you still conscious? No, you're not. Because your brain is not. Your brain is good for nothing in isolation. Your brain needs your skull, needs your heart, needs the rest of your body in general. Like you can live without arms and so on, but there are some parts that are indispensable for the brain to do what it does. The brain needs blood and food.
Right. But the brain is something I have. That's an organ I have. Awareness is something I am. So I think there's a modal confusion which occurs when you say I have consciousness. Consciousness is the subject that has things. Consciousness can't be had. Consciousness is what you are. You can have everything else. You have a brain. You have a perspective. You have a mind. You have a body.
Yeah,
those things are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold on. I think that that's the where our difference of communication is. I think that you are your brain, and then arises out of your brain, out of the physical thing of your meat, that is you. Then you have this internal dialogue, which is your consciousness. That is just you being aware of your physicality. But the moment that gets severed, you are no more.
What you mean is that consciousness is no more.
Yes, but the difference is that you deem consciousness as the fundamental thing. I deem that the body is your fundamental thing. Like you are your body, and then your consciousness arises out of the things that your brain does.
Maybe we should go into, and maybe I should have opened with this, because it's not necessarily fair to have a dialogue on metaphysics if we're not both, equally familiar. Because there's lots of things that you've studied that I'm completely ignorant on, and it would be unfair for you to just kind of drag me through the weeds.
I am kind of this is not my wheelhouse kind.
No, and I would hate to be unfair there. When I say fundamental, I mean the thing which can be reduced no further, and it's an Aristotelian idea that fundamentally there is something out of which the universe emerges, the entire universe. Space, time, you, me, thoughts, ideas, that all of that comes from some primary substance,
And you
right? And
think that
so,
that's the mind of God, right?
correct.
How does that mean that God has a brain?
No, as a matter of fact, I think that brains are what conscious experience looks like from the perspective of an observer. Similarly, flames are what combustion looks like when it hits a particular peak, or lightning is what electrostatic discharge looks like in the environment. However, electrostatic discharge can exist without lightning, and combustion in the environment can exist without flames, and consciousness, similarly, can exist without brains. But brains are what consciousness looks like when consciousness decides to dissociate and localize, which it has in both of our cases, which is the reason we can have this conversation, because consciousness has decided to dissociate and localize. But locality isn't fundamental. Space and time are not fundamental.
Wait, are you telling me that each of us is like God dissociated in a different way, more in
Correct.
the pantheist kind of a thing?
Well,
That is such a heresy. I love that.
Well, pantheism would be the universe is God.
Well,
so
if you are God
wouldn't
and
be.
I am God, then pretty much there's 8 billion pieces of God hanging around.
Well, if you say I am God, you are not, because God doesn't say I am God.
Well, I mean, I would beg to differ. He does say in the Bible, I am God. Yeah, I am that I am.
Sure. I mean, if you want to take that, if you want to, apply the correspondence theory of truth to the Bible, I think that the biblical writers were storytellers. They weren't correspondence theorists or contemporary philosophers.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
writers were just they were just writing stories like every other story we have ever told.
I mean, I don't think it's like every other story. I think some stories suck.
Oh, really? Oh, I actually think that the stories in the Bible suck, and for example, that the Greek myths are way more interesting from the literary standpoint.
Oh, that's fair. I can't argue with you there. I think that some of the biblical writers were inspired by the Greeks. I think the New Testament was in Greek, wasn't it? The Novum Testum Graeci. Yeah, sure. Why not? But anyway, I think my belief in God is just because I think it truly is. I think a more humble approach. If you want to say that what you see and what you observe and what you've been able to calculate gives you some hint or insight into objective truth, I think that your ontology is extremely human-centric, and I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see.
What do I care about? I care about other humans. But the ontology of water boiling at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level, that is a brute fact of the universe. On Earth, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. That is an ontologically true fact.
How was my sound? Did my sound just drastically improve?
Yes. You had a little bit, I think you moved the mic, had a little bit of a, but now you're good.
Okay, good. Because somebody said in the chat, he said, my sound was odd. And I hope that hopefully it's gotten better now.
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So if you would, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Because the debate was going to be between atheists and Christians. How do you tie this idea back to Christianity?
That's a good question. Jesus said, I and the Father are one. He who has seen the Father has seen me. And then the Apostle Paul followed up by saying, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who thought it not robbery to make himself equal with God. And so I would be in the mystic tradition of like Meister Eckhart.
Okay.
And so what a mystic believes, and I join my Muslim mystic brothers who are the Sufis, and I join the Buddhists and the Hindus have a mystic way of seeing the world, meaning that we are all one thing pretending to be several things. And I happen to be of the conviction that this was Jesus's core message, which is the reason he said, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what love is. Love is treating someone as an extension of yourself, right?
I can agree with that. I can agree
There you
with the
go.
definition of love, and I do understand because in my channel we are a 3-person team. There's me, the filthy atheist. Then there's Isa. He has Sufi and Jewish tradition. One of each of his parents. One is Muslim, another one is Jewish, and then we have Dr. J. He is a PhD theologian and pastor. He's a Christian. So I am somewhat familiar with the Sufi position of Islam.
Awesome. Yeah, right now I'm trying to study all of the names of God in the Quran, because they do it so much justice. The Muslims were really kind of brilliant in how they kind of laid everything down. But I don't. Would you mind if I kind of tried kind of a phenomenological demonstration of God? Instead of just arguing about God and say, I feel this way, yeah, I feel this way. I think if I could try to demonstrate God, that would be, because I am of the opinion that arguments don't work. I think, and that there's a lot of scientific research backing that up too. Like the more formalized the argument is, it just kind of, it makes people just think in the opposite direction anyway. So is there an object that you have access to in your office or wherever you are?
Yeah.
Can you show it to the, okay, there you go. Sweet. Xbox controller?
PS5.
PS5. Should have known. Okay. PS5 controller. It's white. Would you agree? It's white and black. Is it relatively heavy for a controller? Is it pretty light?
No, it has a hefty weight because it's got motors, a battery inside, and
nice rumble pack and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, given that you are holding the object and just kind of gave us a description of it, would it be fair to say you are aware of the object?
Yes.
Okay, so you're aware of the controller.
Yeah.
Okay, now this next thing I'm going to ask, it's as tricky as it gets. It's not going to rabbit hole in this direction, but this next question is going to seem a little bit complicated. Being that you told me you're aware of the controller, it would be safe to say that you are aware of the controller.
I don't think we need the layer, because I am directly aware of this, because it's exerting, gravity is pushing down on it, and I need to, I need to counteract the force. And that causes my sense of touch to activate. So I'm directly aware of this.
Right. But in order to tell me that you're directly aware of it, it must mean you are aware that you're aware of it, hence your ability to tell me. So for instance, are you wearing socks right now?
I am.
Okay, so am I. But you wouldn't have told me that you were, because one of the properties of a good pair of socks is that you forget that you're wearing them, right? So when you're walking...
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
It's not a property of the socks.
A property is the wrong word.
No, it's a property of our senses that constant stimuli gets
backgrounded.
Yes.
Right. And so if you were to tell me, like when you told me you were wearing socks, I returned your awareness to the fact. That made you self-aware. It made you aware of the awareness.
Not really, because I still don't feel like I have my socks on. I just remember that I put my socks on in the morning.
Well, you have them on right now, right?
I do have them on, but I still don't feel them.
That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. So if I ask you, do you have socks on? And you look and you say, yes, I do.
Right.
Saying you do and reporting to me about your situation means you are aware of the situation. Because if you weren't aware of the situation, you wouldn't be able to report on it.
What I don't understand is, why do you need the layer of awareness? Because I can see and I can in my head, what happens is like I report, like I see the controller report, and then it goes to my mouth. Like I see the controller. I don't understand why you are adding another layer of awareness.
I think you'll.
In my head, the
I,
awareness is I see, I report.
That's fair, and I think you'll understand soon. And like I said before, I prefaced this step by saying it is an annoying step, but it won't get more
All
annoying
right.
from here.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So is it safe to say that you are self-aware? You are aware of your own awareness.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So here's another question I'll ask you then. Which one are you more confident in? The idea that you have a controller, a PS5 controller, or the idea that you are aware? Which one are you more confident in? If one of them were false, which one would you be confident is false?
No, I think they're both on equal level. Because
So
I'm aware of the controller, because I can, let's say someone broke into my house right now, I could just chuck it over their head.
sure. So you're saying it's impossible that you're dreaming right now and there's not really a controller there.
Oh, that's for sure. Yes. I 100% were in reality. I took 10 drops of LSD once, so I know exactly what not real is.
And you've never been fooled by any of your senses.
I know that my senses are fooled, but I know to the extent that they can be fooled. I know that what I'm experiencing right now, talking with you, could not possibly be anything other than reality. I have zero doubt, like literally zero.
Well, your level of doubt is your psychological state, which is a little bit less interesting than if you were able to demonstrate it. For instance, can you demonstrate that what you're experiencing is not a sophisticated illusion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
If we're going down the like solipsism, there's no solution to that, so we can just discard that. But if you were wanting to say you're kind of in like a matrix state, I would tell you there's not enough processing power in the universe to generate this reality to the level that it has for the 8 billion people on Earth, and also all the stars and planets that there's in the universe. That processing power just doesn't exist.
Now, do you believe that? I mean, what you just said, I think you would have to be God to be confident in a statement about the processing power available in the universe.
Or you can just do the math.
Do you believe that there's math sophisticated enough to tell us about the amount of processing power in the entire universe?
Yeah, and I'm being conservative. Say you wanted to generate a 16K simulation. Let's call that, being generous. Let's call that lifelike. Compute the biggest, the 5090. Hold on, 50.
I mean, listen. I don't want to necessarily go down this rabbit hole. I wanted to continue.
Oh, okay.
Let's continue with the demonstration. You said that you are aware of your own awareness, and I think that that's fair. And you're also aware of the controller, right?
Yeah.
So, give me some properties of that which is aware of the controller. And I know that sounds complicated. You said you believe in awareness. You believe in the existence of awareness. Can you give me some properties of awareness?
Properties of awareness. I've never heard that question before. No, I don't really know how to answer that.
I think saying that exposes a deep amount of honesty in you. So I appreciate that honesty. I think that's the right answer. That's the answer I would give. So let me turn this around and begin asking you questions about awareness. Because I think when I'm talking about awareness, I'm talking about something you are. I'm not talking about something you have. And usually when we have conversations, we speak in terms of subject-object distinctions. So the reason I can describe to you this pin is because it is separate from me as a subject, right? But when we're talking about pure subjectivity, it gets a bit more difficult. So let me ask you this question. Does awareness have a color? What color is awareness?
No, it wouldn't have a color if it's your consciousness. No, why would it have a color?
So I'm sorry, I'm just gonna got a little piece of paper. I'm just going to write this down. So you're saying it is colorless.
Sure.
What does it taste like? There's a series of weird questions, but what does awareness taste like? Does it have a taste?
No, I don't see why it would have a taste.
Let's go here. What shape is awareness? Does it have a shape?
No.
What about a texture? Can you feel it like you can the controller? Is it smooth?
No.
The controller was smooth, right?
No, it's actually textured. But I get what you say. No, it wouldn't have a texture. The awareness.
Okay. Another question. How much time? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. When you want your controller to respond, right? With a PS5, it's probably a really, really quick response time when you press a button, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is still an amount of time that it takes for when you press the trigger to
it's
the
very
action.
tiny, but yeah,
very
it's
tiny,
like
but there's still
milliseconds.
There.
Yes,
How much time does awareness take?
Milliseconds also.
Now, is that a guess or is that something in your
No,
phenomenological experience?
there are some papers that there is a delay because, of course, there's electrical signals traveling through your neurons, so it would have to be there is a time, and we've kind of measured that when you see the stimuli and your brain registers it, there is a delay.
Well, I'm not talking about and I'm glad you made this distinction because it is important. I'm not talking about what you're aware of, because I know that to become aware of something takes time and it requires that neural mapping that you're talking about. I'm talking about awareness simpliciter. How much time does it take to be aware as you are aware now?
Let's say if I am just meditating, talking to myself, for example, that I guess that would also have a very tiny delay.
So are you saying that currently
someone said in the chat, like imagination, like if I imagine something?
No, I'm not talking about your imagination is something you're aware of. If I say imagine a unicorn, you are aware of the unicorn. You have foregrounded an imaginary object in your mind. I'm not talking about things we're aware of, because we already have the example in the PlayStation 5 controller. We're putting aside all objects. We're putting aside what you're aware of, and we're focusing on awareness simpliciter, your state of being right now. How much time does it take being aware? Not focusing your awareness on something, but pure subjectivity.
I have no idea.
Good. And so now we could say that this would be timeless, requiring no time, or we could say, to be safe, maybe a plank length of time, a tiny length of time, if we wanted to make a guess. But phenomenologically, I would say that it is instant. I would say that it's immediate. And by immediate, I just mean awareness isn't mediated by things. So me seeing you, right? There's a color, to your beard. There's a color to your hoodie, your glasses, even the PlayStation controller. Those colors are mediated through my eyes. I can't immediately experience you. I can't immediately experience the sounds you're making. They have to be mediated through my ears. Yeah. But when we take off all of the mediations and ask ourselves, what do we experience immediately, right? I think that awareness is immediate, meaning it is prior to mediation. As a matter of fact, it is the prerequisite for mediation.
What does that mean? Because if you remove everything, you don't experience anything.
Yeah. Ian McGilchrist, who's a neuroscientist, wrote a book called The Matter with Things, right? We think that reality is composed of things, but there is no thing that's fundamental. Things are something which are adaptive for us, because I have 5 fingers. I want to grab things. I want to have. I want to attach certain things to myself which I'm attracted to and resist things that I'm repulsed by. So things are very important to my, evolutionary advantage. But fundamentally, there are no things. There's, atoms, and then those reduce to particles, and those subatomic particles are just temporary excitations of waves.
Yeah, but there are something. So why does he feel that he's justified in saying that there are no things when there are things? There's lots of things.
Well, I don't want to put words in Ian McGilchrist's mouth. He wouldn't say there are no things. Clearly, there are. You just showed me a thing, the PS5 controller. That's a thing. It's just, I think the reason the book is called The Matter with Things is because we surround ourselves with so many things, we forget that things are not fundamental. They're just the way that, our mind gives us the universe in bits and pieces, right?
But even if you go to like the quantum level, those are also things. We build particle accelerators and we can crash into them. We can crash one into another and create other things like antimatter and so on. Those are all things.
Well,
so if you want to boil down to like what's the fundamental layer of reality, you could say quantum fields.
Right, but quantum fields are measured according to their excitations, which are subatomic particles. And those excitations can only be measured once they're gone. We measure the trails of them, right? But the field itself can't be measured apart from that subatomic excitation, which is like here 1 minute, gone the next. So to say that what's fundamental is a field, I can just say, okay, that isn't really a thing. That doesn't have shape, taste, color, texture, time, boundaries. I guess you could say that there are boundaries to field because the electron field doesn't produce things which aren't electrons. So I mean, but unified field theory supposes that there will be one grand field out of which all of the other fields are emergent illusions as well. But not to get too bogged down on that. What you're saying, right? And this is what you've told me. You have said that you are in touch with a colorless, tasteless, shapeless, textureless, timeless being. Is that fair so far?
Not being myself.
Well, being just means isness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying you're in touch with a colorless, tasteless...
No, I am. I am that, plus my body.
Amen. Yeah, I think as long as you remove, and this is kind of a phenomenological undressing, right? You take off everything which is not fundamental to you, and what you're left with is a colorless, tasteless, shapeless, and you said you believe in this thing. You're aware of it. You're aware of awareness, and you're aware of the controller. We put the controller aside. We decided to focus on awareness and the properties thereof. And the properties which you mentioned of this awareness, there's a colorless, tasteless, shapeless, textureless, timeless, spaceless, because it's shapeless, right? It's enormously vast, having no boundaries, and this is a conscious being. And if that being, well, I'm just gonna my last sentence, and I'll let you go. If that being exists, how is that being not God? You only forget that being
because it's
when
me.
you begin. Right. But when you say it's me, you're referring to a spatiotemporal body. So
that's the objection that I wanted to stop you right before.
Right, but all you've done at that point is redress yourself. We could just go through the whole thing again.
No, but the problem is that you at one point separate my body from all of that. I would hold that characterization, that list of things that you make, also includes my body, where I am, and that gives you space and time, and the containment is like it's inside it's myself, and more locally, like it's specifically the brain. I don't know how you could separate me from everything else that is me and my awareness of myself without my body.
Well, it seems to me that you did. I mean, the brain is not colorless. It's pink or red. The brain isn't tasteless.
Well,
the brain is not shapeless.
About the awareness.
Yeah, but you just
But we already said that I think that my awareness is an emergent property. It's just something my brain does.
but that's just a guess.
Well, no, because we can measure it.
You mean we can measure the neural correlates of brain and mind?
We can measure how the brain, like the brain works. So you can measure the neural pathways if you think, they poke you, and so on.
Yeah, those are neural correlates, right? That
Yeah,
has nothing to
that is
do.
me.
You're a neural correlate?
Yeah, that is me. Let me put it to you this way. There are some brute facts about how my brain works. For example, I told you my favorite ice cream is blackberry ice cream. I never chose that to be my favorite ice cream. It is just a brute fact that my brain tickles itself when I eat blackberry ice cream more than any other flavor, right? So it is just the way that my neural pathways lined up when I was a fetus. But
Yeah.
I don't think that you can untie my brain, because if you disconnect my brain from my body, there's no more me. So my awareness is, at least in my view, inextricably tied to my body. Because if not, for example, where was my awareness before I was born?
Right. To say where presupposes that space is a real thing, but space is what brains do in order for us to have a localized experience. So to ask the question, where would I be prior to brains? What I'm saying is brains are what deliver the illusion of time and space.
I don't think it's an illusion. It cannot be an illusion, because the whole universe works on time and space.
No. Our picture. So we don't have access. Listen, we don't have access to the universe. We have access to a human interpretation of a reality. We don't have access to the noumena. We have access to phenomena.
But
and that phenomena is
before humans were, the universe kept going without us. And if we all exploded tomorrow, the whole planet blew up, the universe will go on without us.
And by universe, you mean space-time?
Yeah. Space-time and matter and everything else that we see that is really there. That, to me, is a fundamental layer of reality. Space, time, matter, energy.
Got it. And when you say that, I mean, I think that that's very comforting. The idea that something that human beings presuppose and utilize for our own adaptive purposes is fundamentally real. And, you know, when we go to sleep, the room looks the same. That's a very comforting idea. I just don't see a shred of justification for the idea.
Oh, there's all the justification, but I think that you are projecting. I think that you are the one that gets comfort from the idea of a God.
God is terrible.
I would love to believe in God. I would absolutely love to have this hope of an afterlife and so on. It's just a brute fact that there is no God.
It's a brute fact, meaning there's no justification for it. That's what a brute.
You cannot defend God in a non-fallacious way.
You can't defend God in a non-fallacious. So you're saying that my reasoning is fallacious somehow, or do you think that what I'm running into isn't God?
This is kind of the first time I'm like face to face with this kind of argument.
That's fair.
I would need to review it more and like go back and think a little bit more about it. But when it comes to, you know, more classical theists, I don't think that there is a non-fallacious way to do that. I'm pretty sure that there is some fallacy somewhere around there. You're probably either reifying or hijacking a concept, or there's something there. Not that you do it out of malice. It's just something that people do when they make arguments.
So what's interesting about the way that I have these discussions is that I basically interview you about your own phenomenological experience. And you have revealed to me that you are in touch with a being which is colorless, tasteless, shapeless, no texture, timeless, and conscious. That's all I need for God. What is that being?
No. The last two you have to remove them because I don't agree with that.
Oh,
That being is contained within this husk that is me, that started when my father's sperm met my mother's egg, had a progression in time and space.
all of that is
All of that is contained within me. I don't accept the idea that my
right, but
experience is separate from my body.
all of those are ideologies, though. There are billions of those.
What do you mean?
We were talking about phenomenological experience. You can abandon that and go into theorizing, but at that point, I have a counter theory. But I'm saying where you and I can meet, right? Because I mean, you can say, "Oh yes, all of this is produced by the brain, and yes, I have the hard problem and the interaction problem and all of these absurdities." You can say all of those things. I'm just going to reject them and say that they're not parsimonious. There's all kinds of burdens and absurdities that arise from them. But as long as we stay phenomenological, as long as we're talking about what we feel right now, which is what we were doing with that demonstration, you've laid out to me a being that both of us believe in. I call it God. I'm wondering why you don't.
Because it's me. It's not God. It's me. And you keep separating. Because I can do
right.
this.
But well, hang on. You're not colorless. You're not shapeless. You're not textureless. You're not timeless. This is what the properties that you named. I wrote here, and you are not those things. So how are you saying I am the thing I described?
Did you remove the last two? Because I also said that I am here now. So that gives us time and space. And all of the other things that are colored, they are contained within this thing that is my brain.
I think if we were
my experience is my brain is directly responsible for all of that has no color, no taste, no shape or texture.
I think that if we were to run through this again, no. I mean, look. I think you can run this back, on your own, or maybe watch this video again, because I know you've never interacted with this kind of discussion before. So I want to be fair to you. I think we would arrive at the same thing. It's we would arrive at the exact same descriptions. I think you were honest. You were, and so
No, I'm honest in the first part, but I'm also honest when I'm telling you that you cannot disconnect the first part of the list from the last 2 points. I think the last 2 points is where we really have the difference, is that I think that space and time are the more fundamental layer of reality. That the universe could not possibly function if space and time were not real. And that would actually preclude a God. Because space and time give you a distinction over you and me.
When I say the word universe, all I mean is space-time. So saying that the universe couldn't exist without space-time, to me, is trivially true. Yeah, space-time couldn't exist without space-time. That's fair. But I'm saying that space-time itself, right?
When I say the universe, I mean the conjunction of space-time, matter, and energy.
Right, but matter and energy, if energy is either kinetic or potential, and that's going to require space, and
or matter.
Yeah, and matter is just
energy condensed.
Yeah, just energy in a different form. So it's going to require space and time as well.
Yeah. So the more fundamental layer of reality, what is it? It's space-time. If you want to keep going down to the quantum, but I don't understand enough about quantum to like.
No, and neither do I. I appreciate that both of us hopefully
time,
take
entropy, for example. What is second law of thermodynamics? Matter cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why is that? If space-time is not real, why is it that matter and energy cannot be destroyed?
Why is it that matter and energy cannot be destroyed? I guess I'm not sure what you're getting at.
So we have this law that pretty much everyone agrees on, except, I don't know, flat earthers, who I talk a lot to flat earthers. So we have this idea that matter and energy cannot be destroyed,
Only transformed.
only transformed. Right. That is
If you imagine
an acceptance.
if you imagine a seed becoming a tree or becoming a
Mhm.
plant, right? That
And then,
seed, that seed is transforming into things which were already intrinsic or latent potential within the seed. So there is latent potential within the seed being expressed as the seed grows and expands into whatever you planted. Fair?
yeah, that would be the idealist way of describing that. What I would describe it as is the seed sprout, and then the roots take nutrients from the ground, and they execute their genetic code. So you get from an acorn, you get an oak tree, and then we come down, we chop it down, burn it, that turns into ashes. If you press those ashes very hard and under intense heat, you can create a diamond. So that's how stuff moves around. But you have this idea that there is the seed is idealizing its potential, right? And that is, I'm not too familiar with that part of.
Got it. Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
of a Hegelian notion that
Mhm.
yeah
Yes.
that contradiction.
I don't deal. Philosophy is not my thing.
No. I totally understand, and I really appreciate you giving me your time and being as honest as you have been.
I'm
And
having fun.
Yeah, no, me too. And whenever you sit down with this thing, because I would really like, if possible, for you to poke holes in this thing and say, okay, now that I've really sat down with this, now that I've kind of digested this, I think these are the areas where there are holes in your thinking, because I do
I
believe.
don't know if I'm the one to do that. You might need to talk to someone who's more well versed in philosophy. I my criticism, because of the type of people that I meet more regularly,
Yeah,
is textual criticism, and for example, when people try to go down the moral argument, I crush all of those people, and that kind of stuff. It's very different to what I regularly have to deal with, but
yeah.
it has given me some stuff to think.
No, that's really good. I appreciate that. If there's at least something to think about, because I think with this demonstration, it can work with a 73-year-old woman or a 8-year-old child, right? All you're doing is asking them, what are you experiencing right now? And I've run this on my daughter, who's 4 years old, and she doesn't know God concepts or metaphysics or any of that. I say, grab some object in your room, and she grabs Greenie. It's her little stuffed dinosaur. And
Mhm.
I'm like, are you aware of Greenie? And she's like, what is aware of? And all this. And I was like, is it like something to see it? Does it feel like something to hug Greenie? She's like, yeah. And it's like, okay, so you're aware of Greenie. Do you know that you know? Right? Do you know that you know Greenie? Like, do you know that you're aware? And she can get there. It takes some time. It's like, yeah, I know that I'm aware. I'm sure of it, right? And so it's like, okay, so let's have a conversation then about awareness itself and about how awesome it is to be aware, right? Because you believe that awareness is something that exists. And she's like, yeah, awareness is something that is. And I can point that awareness at things. I can be aware of sounds. I can be aware of textures. I can be aware of, objects in my visual field, right? And so let me ask you some questions about awareness. Let's talk about awareness. Like, is awareness colorful? And it's like, he's like, oh, awareness is green, because she's pointing at Greenie, right? And I'm like, no, that's something you're aware of. So what you're aware of is green, but what color is awareness itself, right? And like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
it
you're
doesn't.
running me down the argument. Let me ask you this. If you run the argument with 1,000 people and you always end up in God, isn't that a completely useless distinction? If everyone is God, then God is nothing.
if God is everything, God is nothing.
Yep.
Well, I already agree that God is no thing. If we take the
Yeah, but you also
etymology of not
agreed
being a
that
thing.
God is me.
No, I don't. Because it depends on what you mean. If you're talking about, because remember, when we went through the demonstration, you said that this being you're in touch with is colorless, shapeless, textureless. That's not who I'm looking at. I'm looking at Max.
Yeah,
So
no, but I also made a distinction that that awareness, which you're calling a being, I don't like the characterization of it being a being, and
being
I
just
also kind of limited it to my body. So it's not a being, like it's me having the process of that awareness, which is yes, it's colorless, it's tasteless, and so on.
being just means isness. It just means it exists.
Okay.
So, for instance, this pin is a being
Mm-hmm.
because it is. It has beingness.
That pen is. The pen is not a being, because that kind of clashes with the other usage of being. So, for clarity, I would say that pen is.
Okay, yeah. So being just refers to isness. So I can replace
Yeah.
being with
Okay.
isness if that if that's more comfortable.
Yes,
There
that's better for me. My brain has
that no
strokes.
yeah no
Okay.
that,
Yes.
yeah that's fair. So there is an isness which has no color and yet it is. It's tasteless and yet it is. It has no shape and yet it is. No texture and yet
It
it is.
is also contained within this husk right here, right now.
So
And it is something that my brain is doing.
those are theories. We're talking about phenomenology. We're talking about
No,
what
I
you.
understand, but I don't know how you can justify that those are just theories when,
No,
if, for example, if I take anesthesia or if I get, opiates, that process kind of stops for a little while. And also, if you sever the connection to with the brain to the rest of my body, then that is also me no more.
general anesthesia makes you incoherent, not unconscious. It doesn't stop consciousness. Nothing stops consciousness that we're aware of.
And this, but like you're not having that perception anymore. So can you? What do you like? Do you think that death doesn't stop consciousness?
Of course not. No, I think consciousness is fundamental. I think that when you die,
Oh,
I think that when you die,
okay.
when your biology dies, the objective pole of experience melts away, and you return to pure subjectivity.
That means absolutely nothing. You return implies space.
No,
Now we're starting to find the holes. Yes, you said return. Return implies movement.
if I say let's return to the beginning of this conversation, have we moved in space?
No, but we go back in
No,
time.
but I used the word
We
return.
recall.
So return doesn't have to return to space. The return doesn't have to refer to space.
How can you have pure consciousness if there is no brain? Because you haven't justified how you can any kind of consciousness can exist without a brain, and I think that's where the hole is.
Well, what I said is that space time is not fundamental, meaning space and time are not fundamental now. They are illusions right now, and the brain that you're referring to needs all of these illusory secondary properties like space,
Mm-hmm.
time, color, texture, taste, and shape. So nothing which is fundamentally real, even right now, requires all of those secondary properties. So when you appeal to a brain, you're appealing to something we know isn't fundamental.
I mean, that's how you characterize it. I think you have it backwards. I think that the physical is the fundamental, and everything else, like, because if you tell me you return to being pure consciousness, okay, where were you before you were born? How does your consciousness travel
Yeah.
from wherever you think it was, or however you want to describe that?
Saying
How
where
does that condense into your body? How does it download into your brain?
and this kind of highlights the severity of the of how entrenched you are in this ideology, because you keep saying where were you as if that question has to be
I
answered.
Yeah, because there's a limit. There's a language limitation of speaking of something that I'm not like super intimately familiar.
No,
But
no,
you
no.
did say
That's fair.
return.
No,
So you did say return. So if that thing returned to returned, how
return
did
doesn't.
it get here in the first place?
Return doesn't imply space. Like I said, we can return to an earlier part in the conversation, and
You're
we have an implied
recalling.
space.
That would be recalling. You wouldn't be returning.
Returning can be colloquially used. Like, let's return to this chapter in the book. It's not like a spatio-temporal returning. It's just returning to something which was.
Returning to a chapter in the book is spatio-temporal.
Why? How have you moved in space-time?
Bible. Let's illustrated page. I move. Time is passing by. I return. More time is passing by. I don't think you can divorce return. I can give you a chance to change that word. But
Let's. You know what? If it's a sticking point, let's use the word remember.
remember also implies time. That's a problem with every word that you can put there. Every action ever requires time, and that's one of the arguments that I would use to more normal Christians is like, okay, if you think that God is outside of space-time, how can God take any action? Because all actions happen in time, all of them.
I think you're taking time way too seriously.
Yes.
So
it's the measure of entropy. It's a pretty big deal.
Entropy is just what we fail to realize about a certain system. So when you say time, no. You realize that time essentially stops at like a black hole, at things moving at light speed. That time dilates with large celestial bodies. Like, why do you take time so seriously?
Because it's important.
It's important to our human existence, to our human illusion. Like, we have this adaptive feature that, but the thing is, we've seen time do really weird, warped things. Like, why do you take it to be fundamental when it's not
because
even?
Wait.
It's not even. It's not even dependable. So why do you assume it's fundamental?
Oh,
it's
it
not
is
even
dependable to the point that we can measure it.
Right,
we have measured time dilation in between two samples separated 1 millimeter.
If you're sitting at a bus stop and I jog past you, we're experiencing time differently, and nope. neither of us are right. Time dilates with moving objects. Like, time is not even dependable.
Very fast.
And high energy physicists and fundamental physicists are saying it's not even fundamental. We have structures like the amplituhedron and the cosmological polytope, out of which the illusion of time emerges. Like, Chetan Prakash, a mathematical physicist, has like he uses the word proof, that like he has proven with evolutionary game theory that time is something we are making up. I mean, and so I don't know if you want to do like I mean, and of course there are certain people that are hoping that when there's a unified theory that time makes a comeback. But it's like, it's not controversial to say time is something which is, if it's real, it's extremely not dependable and fuzzy, and it's almost definitely not fundamental.
But like, why would it not be dependable when every function pretty much of
it's not
every function, every action, everything that happens is ordered in time?
It's not dependable because your biology is always in sync with local time. If you were standing on Jupiter and I was on the Earth, time would be moving significantly slower for you, and you would be right. Like, so we would have a 10-minute conversation. You would say that the conversation was 7 minutes. I would argue that it's 10 minutes, and we would both be right. So how is time? How is time this fundamental thing to you when it's not even dependable?
But it is dependable. It is dependable on like a local scale.
It's dependable.
But like orbits require time. Everything that we see in the universe takes time, and I think that's that divorcing and kind of like appealing to high level physics. There might be a disconnect there, and I don't want to act like I don't. It's not that you're probably. You're doing it out of malice. It's probably something else.
Synoptic in the chat just said, time might be confusing, but it doesn't mean we should dismiss it out of hand. I completely agree. Time should be taken extremely seriously. My problem is with taking it literally, right? So, like I said again, in the words of like Donald Hoffman and Chetan Prakash, these guys say you should take time and space very seriously because time and space are adaptively, pragmatic for human beings. These are tools that are important for us to use rightly in order to feed, fight, flee, reproduce. Like those biological chores necessitate those things, but don't take them literally in assuming that they're, fundamental aspects of reality.
I would have to see a citation for that. If you could please send it. And people in the chat, what are you doing? Send some super chats. Hello.
Right.
Like what?
If you're enjoying this conversation, drop some super chats.
Yes.
And hang on, I have to actually go to my to see whether
I got off of work to be here with you, hanging out. At least send some dollar bills, yo.
dollar. With your accent, hearing you say that is great.
You don't really hear that. You're probably more used to Mexican accent speaking English, right? I'm from Uruguay. I'm like from way down in South America, so we sound a little bit different. Even when I speak Spanish, I sound very different. Where are you? You said you're probably in California from the time zone, right? Or in the Pacific Coast?
I'm in Washington. Yep.
Washington
State.
That's awesome.
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, are there any other? I mean, I wish. I guess with this conversation, we wouldn't been able to clarify things.
No, not really. I it's a little bit outside my wheelhouse. What I can tell you, I hope you don't take it the wrong way, is that it's the least convincing argument I have ever seen for God. Like very quite literally.
Well,
it hinges on a bunch of, very, and please don't take it the wrong way, like philosophical, mixing philosophical mumbo jumbo and also
I can't.
I feel like hijacking a little bit of scientific research.
No, look,
I don't know.
I can't possibly take it the wrong way because I didn't make an argument. You did. All I did was interview you, and you told me about a being which was colorless, tasteless, shapeless. Now you removed timeless and conscious. I don't know how you could say that your experience, that your awareness isn't conscious. Awareness just is a synonym for consciousness. But look, I mean, I didn't give you an argument, so I don't blame you for saying that my lack of an argument is less convincing than the arguments that you've heard. You've told me these things. This list is from you.
Yes, but I also you're conveniently forgetting that I think that those things are inextricably tied to me right here, right now, contained within inside my brain, and that is but the collection of that is the thing that it max.
But there's no justification for that. That's just an assertion.
What do you mean? No, I am perfectly justified in saying that all of those things are contained within me.
That consciousness is contained within your brain. Is that it?
Well, yeah, that is something my brain is doing.
Okay, so give me a justification for that. Because right now, like the hard problem of consciousness, posited by David Chalmers, is like the number one problem in cognitive science. So if you can solve it, there's a Nobel Prize waiting for you. So I mean, give me a justification.
But I think that building your argument, kind of knowing that into account, specifically making that, and then taking the God exit strategy. I told you before when
I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean by the God exit?
When you touch on solipsism, I've encountered that before. People that go for solipsism and they think that they can say, but God gets me out of this. It doesn't.
I never said that. What I said is I feel that I'm a skeptic. You feel that you're a skeptic. And so I said, okay, well, let's see who's more skeptical. And I said, number one, I believe that I am conscious. And you said you agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's step one, consciousness, right? Then I said, okay, let's go to step 2. Let's see who's the most skeptic. Step 2, I believe that not only am I conscious, but you are conscious, right? Even though there's no defeater for solipsism, you and I both agree that it's reasonable to assume that other people are conscious besides ourselves. Fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're still there. Then step 3, this is where someone like me gets off the boat, right? Remember, skepticism wants to posit as little truth claims as possible. You've agreed with me so far, but I imagine that you would take it a step further and say there are beings or isnesses that exist outside of consciousness. Right?
Repeat that.
You believe that beings or entities which you might call matter. I don't know what you would call it, vibrations, amplitude, frequencies, whatever kind of quantities you think fluctuate to create consciousness. You believe that that exists regardless of consciousness, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Yeah, because I mean,
now
there
look,
are things that have no consciousness.
there are things which, I think that everything is fundamentally consciousness, and that you and
No, how can you say that of a rock?
a rock is not conscious, but it's fundamentally made of consciousness. For instance, your thought, if you think I'm hungry, that thought isn't hungry, but that thought is made out of consciousness. That thought could not exist without consciousness.
That thought is made. Wait, that thought is made of electrical impulses of me not having of a sequence of events.
But
that
that's a
is
guess.
Me not having it. No, it's not a guess. No, it's not a guess. It's
No.
a brute fact.
Okay, no. You're right about this. As far as like things like hunger, we have like strict correlates for that. So we're not talking about awareness of. So I have to give you some on this one. Like I think you were right. Things like hunger, things like color, and things like that. Those are correlates of mind. So I can agree with you there. But you think beings exist outside of consciousness, and then number 4, you believe that whatever those little beings are, that there's no shred of evidence for, even in principle, you think that creates consciousness as a byproduct. And I'm saying I don't believe in step 3 or step 4, and that's true skepticism. You agree with my 2 steps.
Why did you say beings exist?
Yeah, and I call them, I say being, and I think you said you didn't want to use that. You want to use like business.
It's very hard. If you say beings exist, it's like, what are you talking about?
What would you say about the things which exist outside of consciousness? Because you believe in some stuff, right? Rocks,
yeah. But you just said that a rock is fundamentally consciousness.
No, don't worry about me. I'm saying I think that what you're doing, is a far cry from skepticism. I think you're making giant leaps of faith. Because I believe that
that's cute.
No, I don't mean faith as a derogatory, and I guess I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said faith because I'm a man of faith. But so I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I myself am a man of faith. But I think that I'm approaching skepticism like I have a very high bar for what I consider to be the truth. I think that consciousness is clearly here. I believe that you are conscious, and I think that there's reasons to believe that. But then number 3, you want to say that outside of my field of experience, there is something, and that thing would have to be tasteless, colorless, textureless, because all of those are mind dependent. Texture is something that requires my mind in order to feel smoothness, in order to see color. Right?
No.
So you're saying colors are mind dependent, are mind independent now?
Yeah. But I started saying that.
I thought you meant you said that
even if you're not there to experience the redness of the rose gets sunlight on it and still shines red. The same that I told you with sound.
No.
If a tree falls in the middle of the forest, even though no one is there, the sound, the process goes on. Like the way it hits the ground, it shakes the air, the waves go by, and you might call sound a thing, but I call sound the whole thing. So I am perfectly justified in my position. In the colloquial sense, when the tree falls in the middle of the forest, the sound still gets made.
When light hits a rose, the rose absorbs all colors from the light spectrum and rejects red. You see
Sure.
red because red is rejected, not because it's absorbed. And yet you're
Yeah,
willing,
that's what
and
we
yet,
call
no,
color. Yeah,
hang
it
on.
doesn't matter.
It matters. It deeply matters.
No, it doesn't.
The reason it matters is because you're saying that even if minds, the very minds which take in with our retina the color that the rose rejects, if that mind were absent, the rose would somehow be
The
giving
process
off
is
red.
still the same. Yeah, the process is still the same.
But we're not talking
Even
about the process. We're talking about the phenomena.
it does the process, the phenomena. If you can't have the phenomena without the process. If you don't take away the rose, take away the light, take away the observer, the only thing that you can really take away is the observer. If you take away the rose, then you won't see anything. If you take away the light, it will be in darkness. You won't see anything. So as long as you have the light and the rose, and it's the same rose, it's what we call a red rose, which might not be. The minutia of all of that is unimportant to me. If you have the light, whether it is the sun, a flashlight, or in the, like, for example, if you point a red rose with a green light, weird stuff happens because of, but we know how that works. What I'm trying to point out is when you get visible light into a rose, whether I'm there to observe it or not, or whether we define it as what the rose color actually is or isn't, whether it's red or whatever, that process still happens if no minds are there. Because there were roses or there were plants with colors before there were beings to observe them.
Got it. So you understand, I hope, that consciousness is the prerequisite for building a case, exploring anything, seeking evidence. If you say that something exists outside of experience, then there is no justification for that, even in principle, because experience is the prerequisite for evidence, for discovery.
For us, but you could wipe every human from the planet and the rose would still be red.
Yeah, but you'll never know that. It's just
we removed all humans from the planet.
Yeah,
but the brute fact that the rose illuminated by the sun is gives the same result.
But you keep saying brute fact, and as a skeptic, I have to reject brute facts. That doesn't appeal. Brute facts don't work. Brute facts do not work for skeptics. You can't just say you can't just say it is the way it is. The skeptic is going to complain and say, I need a justification.
That is not always correct. For example, do you need a justification of why a circle is 360 degrees?
No, because it's a tautology.
Okay.
It's a tautology. You're saying the same. You're saying the same thing. That's why
a circle is composed of 360 degrees.
Yeah. So the reason I don't need a justification.
That's what the circle is.
I know. That's why I'm saying it doesn't require a justification. A triangle is three-sided. You haven't said anything unique. You've just described a triangle by describing a triangle.
That's what but that is what a triangle is. 3 sides, 3 angles. The internal angles add up to 180 degrees. That's what a triangle is. Do you need any justification more than that? No, those are kind of axioms. But I still hold, and I don't think you can demonstrate otherwise, that watching, like, if we set this up like this, right? Whether I am there to watch it or not, this will still happen. If I put it on like a pedestal and I leave it like that, this will still happen and the effect will be the same whether I'm there to look at it or not. Do you disagree with that?
Do I think that there's a controller in your office when you leave your office? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and the fact that the light is hitting it and it's bouncing back kind of very bright so that it overexposes the camera.
No, I don't believe in any of that.
Do you?
I think that.
Sorry, because I just got the image of a meme I saw recently of an elephant hiding behind a very thin pole, like object permanence. What do you mean it doesn't? Like, if I do this, and I leave it like that forever, it will always be the same result until, well, let's say I have infinite battery.
Right, but what about the result that appears when a human eye is present? What if a cat eye were present? Would it be subtly different?
Yeah, because there are physical differences into how we perceive things.
Exactly. So the question isn't whether or not what you set up would continue to be what you set up. The question is your foregrounding and backgrounding mechanism, namely your ability to foreground a controller and background that which isn't a controller, also your ability to resolve at a particular resolution, right? I think you would agree, at a higher resolution, there's just bouncing atoms. There isn't a controller. Fair? At a particular resolution, you could enhance the resolution to where
Yeah, sure.
there's just subatomic particles and waves in flux, right?
Sure.
So the problem with what you're doing is you are prioritizing a very human-centric resolution, even in
Yeah.
your absence. And I think that that's bizarre that you would take that route and
No,
say
I
that the human-centric resolution on the universe would maintain even in the absence of the very minds that construct that resolution.
right, but you think that it's a complete construction of our consciousness. I say no. I say that we have evolved and adapted to experience this part of the range of the sound range, of the physical, of the light range, and other animals adapt to other stuff. It doesn't mean that that's all there is, because, for example, we cannot really see in heat signatures, but other animals do. It doesn't mean that those heat signatures don't exist, if even when we're not experiencing them, because I can buy a thermal camera and I can see those heat signatures like a snake.
Right. And so I think that the main differences between you and I, the main two differences that I see, is that you believe that consciousness is emergent from brains,
Yep.
even though you have no idea how. You just believe that that's the case.
I don't need to.
You believe it's a brute fact or something.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
if I know that if I take an axe to the neck, that consciousness just stops.
Right, and that's just another declarative statement with no justification, right?
Well, I mean, I would test it out, but I really don't want to.
I don't blame you.
I would
Yeah.
be willing, but the problem is that this is all there is. So, I'll test it out at the end of my life, and I'll be right.
At least you hope so.
No, I mean, I know that there's nothing else. And I love that there's nothing else, because it makes me actually appreciate when you've been an atheist with me for so long, you don't have a big crisis like, oh, damn, I'm sorry, I almost cursed like really hard. I'm trying to control myself. No,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Max.
No, I'm trying to curse. We've been having a nice chat, so I'm trying not to. I'm sanitizing my language a bit, right? I forgot my train of thought.
I was gonna say we can turn to the chat here. I think people are asking some interesting questions. Stephen Lamar says, "I don't understand an argument that questions if things existed outside of our perception. Like, did the planets of the solar system not exist until we discovered them?" So I think that's a criticism of me. He's saying he's saying, what are you saying, that the planets just popped into existence when we discovered them? And this is the way that I'll answer. When we say the word planet, we're talking about something like that word is rooted in a conceptual scheme. It's a concept, right? So when we say planet, we mean a certain set of things that present themselves to us. So what I'm saying is, in the absence of the human mind, what is truly out there, right? Unless you're a naive realist, right? Naive realism, the reason it's called naive realism is because there's no philosopher who's ever really taken it seriously. It's like the belief that there's a one-to-one correspondence between what we see and reality, right? So unless you're a naive realist, which I'm not, right? You're going to say, of course, that the objects and the colors and the shapes which are presented to our very recent and very fragile minds don't represent what is really out there. If we had a one-to-one correspondence with reality, we would be paralyzed by the complexity of it, right? Like our knowledge depends on ignorance. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, you're ignoring background noises. If you're seeing a colorful flower, you're ignoring, right? It's like our knowledge depends on ignorance, right? So, of course, we don't correspond to reality in like a one-to-one way. Of course not.
I wouldn't. I remember what I was um, going to say, and now I forgot again. Damn me. I'm sorry.
No, no.
I'll remember again. Don't worry.
It's my fault, Max, because I tend to
No,
bloviate.
no.
I go a little
It's
bit
okay.
long
It's
sometimes.
okay. No, this one is all on me. Don't worry about it.
No, I really am enjoying the conversation though, because I mean, I think that there should be, maybe a knockdown way of like showing me where there's a gaping hole in my reasoning here. But I think that the majority of the atheists that I talk to, when they say they don't believe in God, the entity that they're claiming not to believe in is the entity with all the omnis. Yeah.
Because those get you into some very deep problems.
Such as what?
The problem of evil, the problem of unnecessary suffering, for example, in nature. And if you want, I'll give you one example. Urethral parasites.
Urethra parasites. Expound on that. Is this the problem of evil?
Sort of, but more in the naturalistic way. Like, what kind of omnibenevolent God creates a parasite that swims up your urethra?
That's awful.
Yes.
that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's either God has like a very sick sense of humor, or he's actually like quite cruel. And that's one. There's another parasite that literally eats the liquid inside your eye and leaves you blind, and especially attacks children.
I mean, what about the fact that we die at all? I mean, we die in all kind of mysterious ways. Some ways that we die are painless. Some are painful. Some take very little time. The majority of deaths take a longer time, I think. But I don't think that God created us intentionally. I don't believe God is an agent.
How can it not be an agent if you kind of cited the omnis?
Yeah. So do you mean specifically omnibenevolence?
Yeah, I mean, we can go through all of them, but yeah, omnibenevolence would be
sure. So I believe that love, for instance, is the felt recognition of our shared being. And the reason I believe in that definition is because good behaviors are associative behaviors which treat you as an extension of me. So if you're hungry and I love you, I'm going to treat you as an extension of me. I'm going to treat your hunger as if it's my hunger, and I'm going to share. Compassion is treating your suffering as an extension of my own suffering. So those kind of associative behaviors, right, are what we call good or loving behaviors. So love then on a human level, on a phenomenal level, would be the felt recognition of our shared being. But on a noumenal level, meaning love from the God perspective, would be the complete dissolution of dissociation. And what that means is God sees no difference between you and himself. Right? Just like you saw no difference when you did the phenomenological undressing. Like once we're talking about awareness simpliciter, right? We're not talking about a distinction between the subject and an object. It's pure subjectivity. So what I believe is fundamental is something which does not suffer the illusion of separation like you and I are suffering right now. And this goes back to what the Hindus would say when they said Atman is Brahman.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The Hindus say Atman is Brahman, which means that the illusion of your separate self is in actuality one Brahman.
a little bit of another heresy, but that was a lovely word salad, because you said from God's point of view. How can you even talk about God's point of view when all you can experience is yourself?
Well, I can't just experience myself. I just showed you a phenomenological demonstration. I can take you through it again. But God is
Yeah,
God,
you demonstrated that I am myself and I am conscious. That's what you've demonstrated so far. You claim that that's God,
okay. Well, hang
but
on.
I completely rejected that.
If you said you're conscious, let's just talk about it again. We can spell it out again. What color is that consciousness? You said you're conscious. You agree with that. What
Now
color
I
is
know
it?
that you have your script,
It's not a
but yeah,
script.
it is a script.
Answer it. I mean, instead of
I
poisoning the
already
wait,
did,
hang
and
on.
you keep forgetting that I already told you
No,
that that is
that's fine.
contained within myself.
I know, but
It's
look,
not God. It's not
instead of
anything else other than me.
poisoning the well and using words like script and this and that, we understand that maybe it is a script. Who cares? Deal with the substance, right? If you say you believe in consciousness, right? You said that, and let's say I'm an alien from outer space, and I'm like, okay, you've discovered this thing called consciousness. Let's say I'm a robot intelligence, and I was like, okay, you say there's this thing called consciousness, and you believe that it exists. You believe it's real. What color is it? Because I know that real things, I can see this has a color, this has one. What color is awareness? You would say it has no color. It's really there. As a matter of fact, you believe in it more than you believe in anything else. It is the prerequisite for your belief in anything else. Of course, you would prioritize it.
No. The framing is wrong again, because my awareness comes from my brain.
That's just a theory. You don't have any justification for that.
No, it is. It's it's a brook. You can take
It's a-
it on an axiom. You can take it. You can refer to the times that it's been measured. How when you think your neural pathways and
How
so
about this?
on. And
How about this? Can you name me a scientist? Just give me a neuroscientist, anybody out of cognitive science, who has a way of justifying the idea that awareness arises from brain states.
hold on. This is starting to feel like high-tech solipsism with the God exit strategy, and I think you can make that work.
I can't be a solipsist if I believe you're conscious. We've already established that. I believe in less axioms than you. I think you believe
you believe the biggest axiom there is, which is God.
I believe in fundamental subjectivity. You believe in the primacy of little bits of matter that make up awareness. I'm just asking how.
I mean, because that is all there is.
Right, but that's just a declarative statement. You're not justifying anything.
You are not justifying your. I mean,
mine needs no. Well, hang on, wait. Mine needs no justification. You are conscious. You already agree. There's no way to doubt it. It can't be doubted.
Because I have a brain. I am conscious. You completely forget that part, that my position is not that I am conscious. No, my position is because I am here now, I have a brain, I am conscious, I am able to experience the outside world. And then you're appealing to someone who said time may not be real in high energy level physics and so on. And I suspect that either you're cherry picking, or I don't know if your physics is your field, but I would like to see the citation.
I mean, if you look up, Nima Arkani Hamed,
can you give me the link?
I mean, there are several of them. I mean, I could shoot that.
Give me the one that you're using for the justification for your claim.
There, I mean, Nima's the name. Why are you laughing? I'm saying the name of Nima's.
I debate with flat earthers all the time, and flat earthers are doing exactly what you do all the time, what you do right now, which is when I tell you, give me the link. When I tell you, give me the link, you are purposely obfuscating. Just search for the paper that you read and send me the link, please.
I'm in the middle of a discussion. I was
Yeah.
gonna send it. I was gonna send
You
it to
can
your
send
email.
it after. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
that's
fine.
yeah,
That's
that's
fine.
fine.
I accept that. But when you
Yeah.
tell me look up this and that, it looks like you're
No,
trying to
no.
duck away from that.
I'm just saying you can do your own homework. I don't have to spoon feed you physics.
Oh, no. When in this kind of debate setting, if you make a claim and I ask you for the citation, the onus is on you to share that to me.
All I was going to say is that the name of the lecture is Space Time is Doomed. That's the name of Nima Arkani Hamed's lecture. And you can tell just by the name of that lecture. But I mean, within 2 to 3 minutes, he's talking about how space and time are illusions and that they break down into the amplitude-hedron and the cosmological polytope. He spells it all out. So I wasn't going to, that's all I was going to say there.
Right.
But I mean,
Okay,
look,
but we agree that you will send me the citation after, correct?
Sure, I'll drop the link. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's no big deal.
I'm sorry, but I'm very used to people not wanting to give me citations, and I don't like that. Because, I mean, if I make a claim about science, I'll give you the link in just like 2 seconds because I have everything. The materials that I use, I have them all.
I mean, a citation.
So that takes you. Suppose I grant you your argument. That takes you to like a deist, pantheist, or what? It takes you to wherever else except Christianity. How do you make that connection?
How do I make the connection between idealism and Christianity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Jesus said, I and the Father are one. He who has seen the Father has seen me. After Jesus was asked, show us the Father. He was asking to show us, almost like you're asking me to show you, as if God were some object in the room. And Jesus said, why do you ask me to show you the Father? He who has seen the Father has seen me. By which I mean, my interpretation of that. Feel free to counter this interpretation if you want.
Yeah.
but my interpretation of that is that Jesus was saying, if you need to see God with your eyes, if you don't want a immediate experience, if your experience has to be mediated, then you're looking at God right now because I've taken on physical form, right?
All right.
Right. But if you can understand that you are the breath of God, right? Remember in Genesis, God breathed into Adam and Adam became a living soul. So fundamentally, according to the Christian,
Jewish golem spell.
The Jewish golem spell. I don't know what that means.
That's exactly what that was. You make a clay, you make like a figurine, and you blow into it the breath of life, and out comes a golem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Oh,
but I mean, the idea is that what is fundamental to you is also what's fundamental to God. God breathed out, and that's what consciousness is.
How did God breathe?
Well, if you want like a scientific justification, like a cognitive science justification.
No, I mean, because you've been saying that no, there's no time, there's no space, and as far as I know, the action of breathing requires both time and space.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think that God actually has lungs. So
okay, so he didn't breathe.
Well, no, the biblical writers weren't correspondence theorists. They weren't like scientists who were, they weren't, speaking from a scientific level. They were telling stories. Stories actually work far better. Stories actually work far better for convincing the human mind than do arguments.
Depends on the person, I would say.
And the reason that stories work so well is because it's for the same reason that this argument, which is not mine, it's actually yours. It works well because you want to believe yourself.
It's your dude. It's your argument. Come on.
How is it mine? I just asked you questions and wrote down your answers.
Yes, and every time you recite it back to me, you conveniently forget the caveats that I made to the classifications.
No, I don't. I removed time.
And in any case, it's still your argument. Just saying it's my argument, it's like
Is there something that makes you uncomfortable about that?
Yes, that you put words in my mouth and you forget the caveats that I made.
If that's the case, then why are you so reluctant to do it again?
Because we already did it.
Doing it again implies that we already did it.
I'll have a little bit of anxiety, and repetition is extremely boring to me. I'm liking this now because right now we have. Oh, you're telling me that the justification is that you read in a book that actually you read the translation of a translation of a copy of a translation of something a couple thousand years later of something hearsay that someone reports that this dude walking around in Judea said. And that's why you believe in Christianity?
No.
Do you is that the only possibility? Is that how do you know that is true? How do you know that the author didn't just wrote a story that he never met Jesus? How do you know that Jesus even existed? I'm willing to grant you that Jesus existed because I don't want to go down the mythicist path. But there's so many possibilities that you're wrong that it's the more likely scenario that maybe Jesus was just a crazy dude that was going around saying, I am God, and someone wrote a story about it. And he was just a dude.
That's
right?
possible. I mean, why
Okay.
should I dwell on the infinite possibilities that there are? I mean, that would be boring and frustrating.
Okay. Why? What do you think that Jesus fulfilled prophecy?
I don't know. I guess it's said that he did.
Yeah, the problem is that he fulfilled zero.
That doesn't matter to me. I'm a mystic. Listen,
Cool.
what matters to me, I don't think Jesus existed. I think Jesus exists contemporarily.
Oh
Jesus,
no, he died, and they didn't put him in a tomb. They put him in a common pit with all of the other criminals that they sacrificed that day, and he stayed dead. Got eaten by worms. Went back to the land. His components recycled like everyone else in history, and that's about it.
So what?
What do you mean? So what?
I said Jesus still exists, and you said that his body is rotting somewhere.
No, his body already rotted.
Okay.
So that is Jesus. That was Jesus. Because you seem to think that you can separate someone from their body. And no, I think that our husk, our body, is an intrinsic part of who we are.
Why are you saying it's if what you're saying is true, why are you saying it's your body as if it's something you own as opposed to something you are?
It's both the same thing. It's my thing. It's me. I am this, and I own this.
Does it seem to you? Does it seem to you at all? Let me just
you're
ask you this.
nitpicking my language, and then when you use spatial language, when you claim no space and no time, and I pointed out you kind of glossed it. You acknowledged it the first time. The second time you glossed it. That those are the limitations of our. Yeah, I am my body. Sure. It's just a nitpicking of language. But I can demonstrate this.
Listen. Language is very important. Words,
I know,
and their meanings are very important. It's not just nitpicking, right? A lot of people say, I have a theory. And most of us will live and die without ever having had a theory. It's not a hypothesis either. It's a hunch. A hypothesis is something that's systematically prepared for justification or falsification, right?
Yeah.
Words are very important. So I'm not just being nitpicky, right? I'm saying something.
You have a double standard because you nitpicked me, but when I pointed out that you were using temporal language to justify, I don't remember what exactly, it was like 10 minutes ago. You were using temporal language, then you didn't stop.
Can you paraphrase that? What is it? What do you mean there?
I don't remember exactly, but you were talking about.
I think that
you mentioned the consciousness. I caught you on the return, right? And then there was another kind of similar case like that of an action which implies time, but you kind of glossed over it, and I pointed it out, and you kept going.
I'm still kind of lost on.
It's okay, but please try not to have a double standard, because you know what I meant. And in any case, you could have asked me, "Is this what you mean?" Yes. It's not that I own my body like a possession. I am my body. I have a tortoise, right? And you know that tortoises, they don't have a shell. Tortoises are the shell. The shell is an integral part of their skeletal structure, right? It's like an exoskeleton.
Okay, so if you are your body, then you're experiencing resurrection all the time because all of your cells are dying.
Bullshit.
Your spatiotemporal location is always in flux. Your
Nope.
atoms are always exchanging and changing. How do you know that you're the same person now than you were yesterday, being that you're completely spatiotemporally different and most of your cells have exchanged positions? Some of them have died. You've
Yeah.
gained other particles which have attached to your body. What does that even mean?
The big ones, the ones that are more fundamental to you, because like skin cells, I'm like, my cat is fucking big. I'm sorry, my cat is kind
You,
of like very
you're,
aggressive and so on.
you're allowed to cuss, man. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, you're allowed.
My cat is kind of very aggressive. I picked him out of the street, right? So he likes to roughhouse and he bites and so on, and I don't mind. So yeah, my skin changes, but the neurons, the important ones, the ones that really make you yourself, those don't change. Those don't resurrect. And I kind of also reject the characterization of cells resurrecting, because no, they die and new ones emerge. New ones split from the ones that are left alive, and new ones are created.
Okay, so
Mitosis, right?
I want to ask you this, and this is not getting back to the old stuff. This is a new concept. I just want to let me know if this works for you, right? Would it be fair or justified for me to identify as a way of being? My wife recognizes me. She recognizes me by the sound of my voice. She recognizes me by my tendencies, my phone number, the things that I enjoy doing, such as having conversations like this. I have a pattern in the world, right? And so I think it's Carlo Rovelli's loop quantum gravity theory. He says that relations precede relata. What he means by that is whenever you see a being, like say this phone, let's say an object instead of saying being.
Yes.
Whenever you see an object like this phone, what you're seeing is what is in actuality a system of processes. So even though it looks like a solid object, it's a system of processes, right? So relationships, the relationship between processes underneath, precede relata, or the thing being related, the object, right? And so even though I look like an object, what I truly am is a way of being. I'm a series of processes in flux. So the only way to objectify me, or to say you are an object over there, name Lamont, that's my name, is to appeal to an abstraction, something which is disconnected, right? So in order for me to be here talking to you, I am seated. My seated position requires the existence of this chair, right? My discussion with you requires the existence of my camera. My thoughts and my concepts depend on my memories, and those memories depend on actual events, right? So to say you are merely an object, you're just a person, you're a character, you're appealing to something which never existed. In reality, I am a process. I'm an ongoing process. And that process is connected to how my daughter sees life after my death and how my mother saw life before my birth. I am a long, complicated system.
No, because that is not part of who you are. That is part of what you do, how your loved ones remembered you. Like what you are is your body, your brain, your thoughts, and so on. And yeah, you're composed of different parts.
Right, but my brain has changed just since you said that. I have new information. Every time you speak, my brain changes. So which brain am I? Because you're adding new processing as you speak.
It's not changing. When you
brain
buy
isn't changing?
When you buy a hard drive with no memory on it, it's empty. If you start adding files to it, the hard drive doesn't change. That's kind of a very good analogy for what your brain does. Yes, your brain is changing because now you can recall this conversation we've been having for 2 hours, right? But it doesn't mean that your brain is different. It just has different information stored in it, pretty much like a hard drive.
Okay, so you're saying
but we kind of went out because I wanted to talk about the specifics.
So all I'm saying is it is not irrational to see myself as a way of being, as a as a series of processes which make themselves apparent in the world.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And so when Jesus said, I am the way, right? The reason that Jesus was thought to have defeated death with spirit is because he said, you cannot kill what I fundamentally am. Throughout the ministry of Jesus, he was saying, my body is going to be broken. Don't fear those who kill the body. Don't identify with anything transient. Right?
But Jesus died, so he was no God.
But you're not.
And he didn't resurrect because he died, right?
His body died, but he didn't identify with his body. And I'm saying it's reasonable not to identify with your body.
Sure, but that is just why should I be convinced by that? That is not convincing at all.
Well, I think that reason is and ought to be a slave of the passions. So by saying that you're not convinced, you're just showing me what you're passionate about psychologically. But regardless, I think that it is still reasonable to say that I am a series of processes in the world, and I want to identify with processes that I put into the world. So if I put kindness, gratitude, forgiveness, love, if I put those things in the world, that is how I will be remembered, not by my biological features.
Yeah, but I put out music. You can find me on Spotify, and you can probably find me on Spotify until this planet goes kaboom. So does that mean that I am God now also? No.
I don't know where you found that inference. That was a strange straw man.
It's not a straw man, because you said that Jesus put out kindness. I put actual things into the world. An actual collection of sounds makes a music composition that has a title, and that if you download, you can play. That is tangible. That is real. Right? How am I not better than Jesus for that?
How are you not better than Jesus because you make music?
Yeah.
I don't know whether making music, I think you might be a better musician than Jesus. What does that have to do with anything we're talking about?
Right, but you say that Jesus put out kindness and so on.
No, I said Jesus was a way of being. He said, I am the way. And I think it's reasonable to identify with a way of being as opposed to a human being.
Right, but it's like, okay, he was a teacher. He taught people be kind. But how do you make that connection that, because he was kind and he washed a couple of feet, prevented a woman from getting stoned and so on? But he didn't fulfill prophecy. He kind of contradicted a little bit of the Jewish law, and has a bunch of all of these textual problems in the Bible. We don't know what he said when he died. We don't know really if the information is not eyewitnesses. So the Gospels are hearsay. Like we have very scant information about Jesus.
Who cares?
I care.
Why? Why
What
do you
mean
care?
why? Because if you're telling me there was this dude that claimed to be God, it's like, okay, what do we know about him? Well, we know that the story of him comes in a book in which
What story doesn't come in a book? Stories come in books.
Yeah, but you know that there's verified, and there's a difference between an eyewitness and what we have in the Gospels, which is hearsay at the
look
very
listen,
generous.
if I found like this ancient Egyptian hieroglyph buried in the cave of Qumran, and I undid the scroll and it said eating ice cream continually is bad for you and will likely end in heart disease, I'm not going to say, hey, like I want to verify who made this, and I want to make sure that the textual, I'm going to look at the information and see whether that information is pragmatically relevant to the good life, right? I think saying this textual critic thinks that there's this contradiction here is like,
there's tons of them.
Of course there are. Like who cares? Like
I care.
Why?
But that's because you take
why do you care?
You take the mystic position. So you think that Jesus is God, even though he didn't fulfill any prophecy whatsoever from the Old Testament. Not one.
But the people who did fulfill prophecies in the Old Testament weren't God. So why would Jesus fulfilling prophecies make him God if the ones who fulfilled prophecies weren't God? There were
Because
prophets in the Old
wait,
Testament. They didn't claim to be God. What like
do you read the
what
Old
inference
Testament?
does that have?
Do you
What is
read the Old Testament?
Yeah.
Jesus claimed to be the Messiah. The whole Jesus claimed to be God comes develops later in the Christology.
Okay. So you don't think Jesus claimed to be God?
No, I
He,
think that is a posterior addition.
okay. I mean, there to your credit, it is found in the Gospel of John, which is the latest of the
The
Gospels.
latest.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's not. It doesn't appear in Mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not the people that wrote the Gospels. Do we agree on that? Because you cited a lot of scientists. I wonder if you keep the same bar to evaluate Bible scholarship.
Sure. I mean, the thing is, look, man, I'm very egocentrically rational. I'm not, I hope to not be egotistical, but I'm very egocentric. I'm like, look, if I'm not getting tools from this thing, I don't care. It's like, why am I going to sit down and read the complete works of Julius Wellhausen on biblical criticism? I want to see, is there a tool here that I can use? And I think the Bible is full of tools. It's an ancient text, it's an ancient library written from the auspice and perspective of like,
What
kings
tool?
and slaves and poets and all this. I think there's a lot of relevance there. If you say, oh, this guy
Like,
contradicts that guy, of
yeah.
course he does. They're separated by, hundreds, if not thousands of years. I would expect
So
that.
you don't believe in the Holy Spirit?
Yes, I do. Of course I do.
So don't you believe that the scripture was inspired by the Holy Spirit?
Sure. But I wrote a paper
But
inspired.
wait,
I wrote a paper inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King.
wait.
Inspiration isn't.
No, that's a false equivalence. Because you also think that the Holy Spirit is God, correct?
Yeah.
So you're now accepting that God can make a mistake?
In certain forms. Sure. If God wanted.
Not omnipotent then.
Yeah, God is omnipotent.
No, it's not, because he made a mistake.
Well, I mean, I think that would, if God in his purest form made a mistake, that would frustrate omniscience, not omnipresence, not omnipotence
It
necessarily.
actually frustrates both at the same time.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, if he was not powerful enough to not make a mistake.
No, I think you're forgetting that I'm an idealist. If you were an expert mathematician and you had a dream that you failed an elementary school math test, it wouldn't mean that you're a weak mathematician. It would mean that you've localized within a dream in order to have a particular experience. I've said from the beginning that I believe that that's what's happening now with our dissociative state. The state that we're in right now, we are in God having a temporary, localized, illusory experience of space and time. And within that experience, while wearing the masks, the million masks of God, to quote G.K. Chesterton, we can make mistakes, right? But God, in his purest form, which is the form that we will remember, reestablish membership in after death, makes no mistakes and is perfect.
But you just acknowledged that the Holy Spirit inspired scripture and there are glaring mistakes in scripture.
Sure.
So the Holy Spirit is not God?
Yeah,
or
the Holy
what?
Spirit.
How do you justify that the Holy Spirit made a mistake?
Well, I guess if you mention Holy Spirit, I guess I can't clear up any of the confusion without describing what the Trinity is. Are you familiar with the Trinity, the concept?
Yes.
Right. So if you think God is the only being, right? The Father. The Son is the temporary dissociative experience that we're having now. And the Spirit testifies to the relationship between the Father and the Son, between the emergent thing and the fundamental thing. The Holy Spirit testifies to the relationship between those two. You can even think of it in terms of quantum mechanics, the field and the waves, right? There's a field which stays, which is stable, and there are the waves, which are temporary states of becoming. Right now, you are a temporary state of becoming. You are not the field. You are not the Lord God, right? You're a temporary excitation from God's fundamental power. So in that temporary limited state, right? And please stop me before you say word salad again, right? Stop me whenever you get confused instead of letting me say the entire thing and then say that what I said is meaningless and I just wasted my breath. Have you got me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So Yeah, so God is the fundamental presence, being simpliciter. The Son is the excitation, the dissociation, and the Spirit testifies to the relationship between the two, such that we get words like good and evil, right? The reason that we know the difference between good and evil is because we're familiar with the immediacy and the mediated. Like if someone performs associative behaviors which treat two or three as if they're one, we say yes, that's good, because the oneness impinges upon us. Like on a deep level, we're all aware of the demonstration that I showed you before. Like it's immediate. You can't get away from it. And that's the reason we say good behavior is behavior which appeals to that oneness, right? Love is the felt recognition of our shared being, a felt recognition of the oneness.
I don't know why. Hold on. I don't know why you're defining. Because what I asked you is how, even if I accept that the mediation, how does the Holy Spirit make a mistake when inspiring Scripture? This is not. You're not going to. You can't
Wait.
philosophize your way around this.
It's not a philosophizing away. If I'm inspired by Martin Luther King and I write an essay, right? And that
Martin
essay,
Luther King is not the Holy Spirit.
you're not letting me finish. You're going to understand.
You told me that I could interrupt you.
I did. You're right. You're absolutely right. I did say that. So I apologize. If I'm writing about the Holy Spirit, right, and I make a mistake, if I'm inspired by the Holy Spirit and I make a mistake, how is the mistake not on me, the human being who has the capacity to write letters and to
You're
translate?
getting inspired by something that is claimed to be a perfect being.
Right, but I'm not the perfect being.
A perfect being cannot. A perfect being cannot transmit an imperfect message.
A perfect being can't transmit an imperfect message.
Yes.
I didn't. What I'm saying is, if I'm looking at a being which is stronger than me and smarter than me, right, and better than me in every way, it doesn't mean that the medium of my mind isn't going to create errors. I'm the human being.
One would think that if the Holy Spirit, who you think can view all of time at once and so on, because it's God, blah, 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 and it's inspiring Scripture, and it sees you make a mistake, it will go like, hey, hold on, correct that because you made a mistake. Or they would transmit the message in such a way that that's what I would be more inclined to believe if I were to take your position, that they would transmit the message in such a way that there would be no room, even with the imperfections of humanity, of the message to be wrong or incorrect in any kind of way.
Yeah, but now you're confusing the application of agency. The Holy Spirit, like God the Father, is not an agent. So when you say stop,
What does that mean?
Agency is the ability to make conscious decisions.
You contradicted yourself because you said God breathed, so that is a conscious decision. How do you deal with that?
Right, but saying that that's a conscious decision makes the mistake of applying a correspondence theory to the writers of Genesis. And the book of Genesis is older than the correspondence theory.
I don't care about the writers of Genesis. We just found the core, like one of the kind of.
I quoted Genesis. When I said we're God breathed, I'm quoting Genesis.
Remember that I told you that you cannot make a non-fallacious argument for God, and there it is. You're just special pleading.
I haven't made an argument for God yet. You're the one who brought the Bible up.
Yeah, because I wanted to tie it up. All of the philosophical argument, that's fine, whatever. I wanted to see how that ties to Christianity, and there is where the flaws. The part which you did was all very nice, but it's just because I'm not familiar with that kind of a thing. But when we come to the Bible, that's where I shine. And this is where the problem start collecting up. So I told you Jesus couldn't have resurrected, and you said I don't care. And now we're talking about the inspiration of the Scripture, and the problems start piling up.
Let me ask you this, right? Just so you don't think I'm being unfair. If Jesus did resurrect bodily, what do you think that would mean? Like, what would follow logically from that?
That there is a God, because it's magic.
Because there's magic, therefore there is a God?
Yeah. There is no magic. There is no God.
Dude, that's you believe in the magic of spooky matter giving rise to consciousness. That's magic.
No, that's not magic. That is perfectly natural. We can map it.
No, we can't. Huxley said it was magic. Darwin's bulldog. He said it's like rubbing the genie and having the genie pop out of the magic lamp.
How long ago?
The hard problem of consciousness has not been answered by materialists and physicalists.
Sure, I can grant you that.
So you
what
so
I do
you
know,
so you
what I
believe
do
in
know is that
you believe in magic.
No, I don't. What I do know is that if you sever the connection between my brain and my body, that conscious process just stops. And
Yeah.
you said no, it continues. I would like you to prove that to me if you can somehow.
I think consciousness is not an illusion and it can't be doubted. It's the only thing in the universe which can't be doubted and can't be an illusion.
How do you justify that it will continue after the thing that I know for a fact that I have, my brain?
Because because the brain, in the way you describe it, is dependent on a series of illusions, and consciousness is not.
How do you say that the brain is dependent on illusions? The brain is dependent on the electricity that goes into it and comes out of it. The electrical impulses that make it go.
Right. So I just said, and of course, you want me to give you the link, that space and time are not fundamental, but we can put that aside because you disagree with me there. But
yes.
The brain has color, it has shape, it has texture. Those things aren't fundamental. They're results of mind. So what do you mean when you say brain if it lacks everything that the mind produces when we're talking about, like, even concepts require consciousness? So what are you saying?
Do I really need to do this? 1 second. There we go. What do I say when I say brain? I say that.
I don't know what you're doing. What's that? What do you mean?
I mean, you asked me, what do I say? What do I mean when I say brain? I say that. If you open my skull right now, you would find one of those.
One of what?
I'm sharing my screen to you.
Oh, I don't see anything.
You should.
There it is. There it is. I've just added that. Right.
Right. I see I have one of these.
Okay.
Do you disagree with that?
I think that right now I'm seeing color, and right now your brain doesn't look like that because there isn't any light bouncing off of it. Is that fair?
Nitpicking again. I mean, yes.
You keep saying nitpicking, but this is philosophy. Let's just talk.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think that I have one of these inside my skull?
No, not right now. But I think if we broke your skull open, I think if we broke your skull open, we would see that. But no, I don't think that it's there now.
If you break my skull open and you find the thing, that means that the thing was inside.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it absolutely do.
Look. You're appealing.
I open this. There they are. But they were always there. It doesn't matter that we don't see them. Dude, this is like object permanence. You learn that when you're like 2.
Okay, I mean the fact that you learn it when you're 2, or the fact that you think that what you're saying is trivially true, doesn't do anything. I mean, none of that is interesting. I'm looking for an argument.
Yeah, but I mean, you're looking for an argument, but you're denying that I have a brain until they open my skull. That is, dude, seriously, that's bullshit.
Why? I mean, that's not an argument either. That's the equivalent of an incredulous stare. Give me something to work with instead of just
that is
posturing.
Your personal incredulity. Like, because I've had brain scans, I've seen my brain,
and I believe that when they scanned your brain, they saw an object quite like the one that you showed. Correct?
Yeah.
Why do you assume? I mean, are you familiar with like any of like the basic interpretations of like local realism has been almost disproved? Like Einstein was wrong about local realism. Locality and statistical independence, right? Locality is the idea that objects cannot give off energy faster than the speed of light. I can only affect things which are near me locally. And then statistical independence is the concept that things are the way they are, regardless of whether we're looking at them or not. Right?
That only you take these concepts like the observer effect that applies to like the quantum field.
The universe is a quantum universe. It's not a classical one. It behaves.
Yeah, but we're not talking.
The universe behaves quantum mechanically.
And you're telling me that this is not happening, or what? What are you saying? Because the macro scale also does exist.
I'm saying I'm saying that human biology is trained on a low resolution image of reality. And I'm saying when you drop that thing, our biology is trained on that low resolution image. It's very important that when something drops, you see that, right? It's important for you to have that relationship with reality.
I dropped it. I didn't see it, and it still dropped.
But I saw it.
Close your eyes. No, seriously, close your eyes. Because this is weird. Close your eyes.
Okay, eyes are closed.
Oh, damn. It did fall. I didn't see it falling, but I see where it's now. It's on the floor, so it did fall.
Sure.
It went from point A to point B in space and time. And we didn't see it, and the effect is just the same. So that is reality.
I know that it's it's difficult to grasp, and I think intuitively, what you're saying.
No, it's not difficult. It's getting like a little bit because you just deny. It's getting a little bit annoying that you denied my brain. You denied that the thing fell because you didn't see it when we actually see the effects. And the only possibility is that it went from here to the floor in a motion of falling, and we can predict it. I can literally measure how fast without even looking. I can set up lasers and not look at it, and I can measure how fast it takes, 9.8 meters per second squared, give or take 0.1 for drag.
Sure. It seems to me that you're very interested in having the universe work in a way that that can be contained in a very kind of Euclidean structure.
Because it does. That's how we do science. That's how we build iPhones, and that's how we build the internet. And that's how we are streaming right now. You are in Washington. I'm in Montevideo, Uruguay.
Mm-hmm. And by saying that, I think you're just confusing physics with physicalism. They're not the same thing.
I mean, physics deals exclusively with physicalism.
That's not true. Physicalism is a reduction based in metaphysics, and science is metaphysically neutral.
Science doesn't care about the metaphysical.
Exactly. And physicalism is a reduction based in metaphysics. So physicists don't care. Physicists don't care what you think is fundamental. What physicists are talking about is relationships with things that we can observe.
Yeah. That's what I care about.
So there are physicists who are idealists. There are physicists who are constitutive panpsychists and dualists. I think the majority of them are dualists.
There's people who believe all sorts of wrong stuff. None of you can demonstrate a God by any means.
I don't need to. You did.
No, I didn't demonstrate a God. I demonstrated that I exist.
I already knew that.
We've been through that. I also already knew that I exist.
Yeah, but okay. I guess you and I are clearly not going to get to the bottom of this, but I think that those who rewind this footage will be able to clearly see that when I asked you about your phenomenological experience as apart from your unjustifiable theories,
they are perfectly justified.
I mean, you called a lot of them brute facts when I asked for justification. Yeah. As a skeptic, I don't like.
You denied that I have a brain.
No, I didn't. I said if we break your skull open, we'll see a brain.
It's still in there, even if you don't break my skull open. That's how humans are. It is you're going to tell me that it's not a brute fact that the Homo sapien species has a brain inside their skull. Every single one of them.
Okay, so realism, right? And let me just, and this is
Could you please answer the
this is
question? It's a
this
yes
is
or no.
no. This is for the audience, right? This is for the
There we
audience.
go.
This is for the audience who's
Humans
listening.
don't have brains.
That's not true. Anyway, this is
You
for the
said
audience.
that. You just said it.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Calm down.
I am
For
calm.
for the audience, right? Realism, right? The scientists want to answer the question: what happens to a particle when it is not observed, right? And there are lots of answers to this question. Um, one of the interpretations is that of the realist, and they say that prior to the observation of a particle, it is still in a definite state. And a lot of times when you ask them how they know this, they will appeal to some hidden variables. You have Sabine Hassenfelder, who's a famous, hidden variables
She's a
theorist
crackpot.
with toy models. I disagree. I don't think she's a crackpot. I think
She's a crackpot.
she's a brilliant mathematician. She uses math and goes a little bit too far, but I don't think she's a crackpot. She's far smarter than me.
She is.
But on the other hand, you have the vast majority of physicists um, who say that there is no definite state, right? Um, this is the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, which
Yeah, but
the
that
majority.
doesn't apply to the macro world. That doesn't apply. It's not a Schrodinger's brain. I told you that you were hijacking arguments. I told you at the beginning. You can't make a quantum argument for the macroscopic world. You just can't.
I'm not. You're doing all of this slippery slope stuff. I'm not going where you think that I'm going.
I mean, you're talking about quantum mechanics when I asked you the simple question is, do humans have a brain inside their skull?
And
the answer is yes.
And I'm answering. Okay, and when you say it like that, the spirit with which you just said, the answer is yes, right?
Yes,
it's
because there is no other fact.
Okay, it's very important to you that the answer be yes, and I think that's established. So now that we've established that answer is very important to you.
I said yes, you didn't say yes. That's the problem. You want to have it, your cake and eat it too. You can't say yes and then give me this idea that, oh, you only have a brain when you see it. No, like the brain isn't here. It's working. It's what's keeping my heartbeat alive. It's what's keeping your heartbeat alive. I don't need to see your brain to know that you have one, because it is a brute fact, a biological necessity. You can justify it 100 different ways. That you have a brain inside your skull the same way that I do. Right?
Okay. So all I'm saying is, and I just wanted to finish my statement.
Sure.
According to the vast majority of physicists, right, who believe in the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, they say shut up and calculate, right? That's the phrase that's put out there, right? What they believe about that question that I said before, what is going on with a particle prior to observation? What they say is that it is in a superposition of states. There is no way to know. As a matter of fact, it is in a bunch of states. It's almost in a state of Aristotelian potentia, right? And when the realist, such as yourself, and I want to salute you for being a realist. I understand why you're a realist, even though realism is essentially dead, right? The reason I salute you for being a realist is because it's very, very difficult to leave it, because it gives you access to so much power, to so much understanding and knowledge. Yeah. I get that, right? However, right, when I say that you don't have a brain, I don't mean to insult you. I don't mean to, because I would say the same thing about myself. I would say that absent observation, without observation, and my brain isn't currently under observation, right? Everything in my skull is in a superposition of states, which doesn't mean that there is some definite state waiting to be actualized or realized. That's not what a superposition of states is. So when you lean your head back and laugh at the absurdity of the notion that there isn't a brain waiting to be discovered, though one likely would if we were to open your brain. It's not as silly as you'd like to think. And I know that when atheists and theists have discussions, we like to think of the other person's ideas as being trivially false. I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do that, because yes, I believe that atheism is false, but I don't believe that it's trivially false. I think that the atheists are saying some rational things, albeit a bit misguided.
Yeah. In this conversation, yeah. But again, you said you weren't going to do the quantum, and you did the quantum. That you're talking about superposition states. That applies only in the quantum realm.
Right.
The Schrodinger's experiment is a macro illustration of what happens in the quantum realm. So it's not like I have a Schrodinger's brain, and I can't even get you to tell me that, yes, you acknowledge. So that means we don't even share the basic evaluation of reality. And that is a little bit worrisome. That you think that, and you're giving me like a physics argument when I'm asking you a biological fact. Do you have a brain inside your head? Do I have a brain inside your head? Do the 17 people watching here, do they have a brain inside their heads? And the answer is yes. I'm sorry that you can't understand or can't deal with like just simple facts.
Okay, I mean, look, you can make declarative statements with more and more volume, but that to me, the increase on the volume of a declarative without justification strikes me with underwhelming force.
I'm effusive. It's the way I am.
No. I'm not
denying that humans have a brain.
I'm not saying that.
A little bit
I'm not saying I'm offended that you're increasing your volume. I'm saying that that's not interesting. Like saying something louder doesn't constitute an interesting point. You're not
right.
justifying.
But I told you can't use a quantum argument for the macro world, and you told me I'm not going to do that, and then went on to do just that. And I couldn't even get you to agree to the fact that we have a brain on our skull, whether we like it or not, or whether we see it or not. The brain is there.
Let's just say, just to show you,
and you.
I just want to show you.
Yeah.
I just want to show you right now, right? Let's just say I'm an alien from outer space, right? And I just said, hey, you know what? I don't believe in the existence of brains, right? I think that, I don't think that brains exist at all. Can you prove that there's a brain to me?
Yeah, I'll take you to the morgue and I will open up a corpse and I'll show you. See, this is one of us dead. This is one of us dead. We have this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the central computer of how we function. I can't show you one on a live person, because if you disconnect this from the rest of the body, we know more. But we can maybe go to the neurological hospital and see someone who Would you mind if
we kept our responses just a bit more brief, just so I could jump in there? So you and the alien go to the morgue. You open up a skull and you see this pink object. You say, "Look, there it is. There's a brain." And then the alien says, "Okay, now I believe in one brain, but there are no others."
Oh my God, we're all the same species,
right? But I mean, you have ideas. I have other ideas. Your skin is white. My skin is black. Why shouldn't I believe that that's the only brain? Can you show me another one?
Yeah. I was giving you another example of, okay, this is the brain of a dead person. We can go to the neurological hospital and probably find someone with half of their skull outside, like taken.
Sure.
And we can say, like, look, that dude is alive. We're operating him because they have a tumor.
You're not understanding.
That's how we all are.
You're not understanding the gravity of the philosophical problem here.
No,
right?
I'm thinking that you're making a problem out of like you're making a hill out of like a little ant farm.
Right, but you're saying that there's something in your skull right now that has no qualities.
It has all the qualities. It's a physical thing.
But we can't touch it. We can't taste it. We can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's surrounded by your skull. I mean, if you want to mess up your brain, just dig a hole and touch it. The brain doesn't have nerve endings, so it probably won't hurt.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you believe,
And like, if you're, dude,
I think that
you
you should
started making a lot
you
of
should
sense,
give.
and now you're flat out just because you want to be a
It was
skeptic.
a bad
You're
analogy.
denying.
It was a
You're
bad analogy.
denying that humans have a brain.
No, I'll give it to you. That was a bad analogy. I think, and we'll wrap this conversation up.
I
I
don't care.
appreciate.
Sure.
I
I
appreciate.
don't care about the analogy, though. I care that you don't accept the brute fact, or you're so skeptical. You want to prove. I don't know if you're like pulling my leg, or that for the sake of consistency, you have to be so skeptical that you deny that humans have brains.
Well, you said you speak to flat earthers all the time. Why should you be
Yeah.
surprised that something strange is coming out of my mouth? If it's strange to you, then you're used to having conversations with strange people.
No, but even flat earthers wouldn't deny that we have brains.
So you think
And
that I'm
those
going?
people deny everything. Those people deny satellites, space travel. They deny celestial navigation. They actually deny measurements of curvature of the Earth. So I can handle like that, but it's weird to hear someone say that, oh, you would have to prove, in order to accept that humans have brains, you would have to see each and every brain on the planet. That is just wild.
No. That was a poor analogy. I was trying to prove a point that I think I failed to with that poor analogy.
So would you accept that humans have brains? Or do you still hold in the position that you need to see it?
No. I've never denied that.
How many would you need to see in order for you to be able to make the actual concession that humans have brains?
Forget the analogy, right? I believe that if we were to scan your skull, if we were to put you through an electroencephalogram, we would see a brain. What I'm disagreeing with is the fact that something shows up to a human being means that what shows up is something that is objective in the universe, as opposed to something that renders to a human being. You seem to be a naive realist, and I think that's more strange.
I mean, but it doesn't just show up for us. Like, for example, we don't see ultraviolet light, but you can measure it. We built machines that complement our senses to the point that we can detect infrasounds and ultrasounds, and we actually work them. A couple of years ago, I got a scan in my kidney because I felt like pain, and they thought that I had kidney stones. And the woman comes with a little wand and goes like, ooh, ooh, and they look inside you with a sound that you cannot hear, actually, because it's ultrasound. Right?
Sure. Wait, Stephen Lamar says, Mr. B, how about this? Explain how you're able to even have the conversation that you're having right now. What gives you that ability? I think what gives me that ability is the ability to, first of all, to ignore certain things. For instance, if I weren't able to ignore certain patterns of light in my room, I wouldn't have been able to read your chat. If I weren't able to ignore or to background and foreground noises, I wouldn't be able to hear what Max is saying. So I believe that all of my knowledge is dependent on ignorance, and all of my concepts are reflections of my own limitations, right? I guess that's how I would attack that idea, how I'm able to have the conversation.
Yeah, shared reality, brute facts of the universe that are just we built the technology for the internet, for the keyboard.
I think that I think that we have a shared reality, but I think that I'm willing to admit that I'm using faith when I assume such a thing.
Oh, but it doesn't need faith. I'm seeing it, and the thing is that it's not you and me that we see it. There's a whole intersubjective experience that we all share that tells us that even when people who were not here right now will come later, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a couple of hours, maybe forwarded over from my channel, whatever, they will come and they will see that message. So that message is now in the universe. That message exists in reality.
That what you're experiencing right now exists in reality.
Yeah. Because my cat can see the message. He can't read, but he can see it.
Uh, okay, but you're saying you're saying we have a shared reality.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But I see, this is one of the things that I'll leave it there. I think I agree that we have a shared reality. Um, I think that you will be amazed and shocked when you do some research into cognitive science and philosophy of mind. When you look up people like Bernardo Kastrup and Donald Hoffman who are working in these areas, even the integrated information theory posited by Giulio Tononi and Christoph Koch. This is the number one theory of conscious experience, and it assumes the fundamentality of experience, not brains. It takes consciousness to be non-computational according to brains, and this is the number one theory of consciousness in cognitive science. It's called integrated information theory. The second one is global workspace theory, but global workspace theory is not mathematically rigorous, and so IIT really takes the cake right now in cognitive science. So what I'm saying isn't as woo-woo and weird as you might suppose. I think that I truly am a skeptic. I've tried my best to show you why the skeptic dude, like
Yeah.
Rene Descartes said, "Cogito ergo sum." Right? That was skepticism. He was like, "Look, I'm going to start from the bare bones. I think, therefore I am." And I even take it a step back from him. I take Hegel's critique on him and say, "Look, all I believe in the only fundamental thing is consciousness, awareness, simpliciter." Right?
Yeah, the problem is that it forces you to say stuff like you don't know that you have a brain until you see it. So there's absolutely like no utility. And when I pushed you,
Every single
you become,
every
when I pushed you about the Bible, you become super less skeptic about that. It's like, yeah, who cares? Who cares if the Bible has a bunch of mistakes? Who cares if I believe that the inspiration of the Holy Spirit conduced to mistakes in the writing of the Bible and so on and so forth?
That's pragmatism. How is that not skeptic? I'm saying I'm taking the pragmatic tools.
All
I don't
right.
care about anything that doesn't affect me positively. I'm taking the pragmatic tools out of it. How is that not skepticism? That's for me.
Pragmatism. Okay.
Yeah, you know the
I don't
American
know.
the American pragmatists like C.S. Peirce and
No, I don't. I told you
William
that
William
I
James.
don't do philosophy, but you're mixing philosophy with hijacking quantum arguments with citing neuroscience that I don't know. Like, is it part of your field? Are you in the field of neuroscience?
I'm a nerd, so I am. So in terms of
So
things that
no.
I'm the things that I'm principally interested in, it's going to be cognitive science. So as far as quantum mechanics, I don't know what I'm talking about.
But you went to school for it?
No, I'm teaching myself
Okay.
cognitive science right now, and
Okay.
I'm starting in articulatory phonetics and acoustic phonetics, which I
Sure.
brought up before. So you in cognitive science, you start in linguistics typically, because
Oh,
cognitive
sorry.
science is a what you want to do as a cognitive scientist is integrate all of the disciplines of mind without equivocating.
I mean, the first thing you would have to do to be considered a cognitive science would be to get a degree, but that's just me.
Oh, you believe that unless you have a degree, you're not a professional?
Yeah,
Got it. No, I think that's fair. And I mean, I wouldn't call myself a professional cognitive scientist. I would never do that. What I call myself is a nerd.
sure.
Yeah.
I
And
understand that. For example, I don't call myself a physicist, but I've had to like teach myself physics to argue with flat earthers, right? But I mean, I wouldn't pretend or consider that I'm a physicist in any kind of way. And I also deal with like the most pretty basic stuff.
see, I think that it's egocentrically rational to hold ideas lightly. And maybe that's a flaw of mine. Like maybe that's something that I should reconsider because um I think that I think that the earth is round. But I think that mostly because of
Why?
experts.
Why?
Why do I think the earth is round?
Hmm.
Because of experts, because of the pale blue dot, the We've seen images
Right.
from space, presumably, and I tend to trust those, and I don't have a lot invested in it. But I think the more
So
you learn,
evidence.
the more you
Evidence.
the more you learn, the more humble you should be, right? So if you've really dived into something, there's something
Well,
called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and
I
it
know.
and it affects people who really haven't studied anything. Like, so when you have a lot of like, I must be right about this, and you're crazy and you're insane, and I need to, like, that
No,
shows that
I don't think
you
that you're insane. I got a little bit.
no.
Not upset. I got a little
I'm
bit
not talking.
riled up with the
No, no,
whole
no.
brain thing.
Listen,
Right?
I've loved our interaction. I'm not talking
Yeah, it
about
was
you.
fun. It was a lot of
I
fun.
think it's been a lot. I hope we have it again. And I'm not talking about you. I'm saying that you've seen people who's like, I refuse to. Those are not the experts. So the thing that I want to do as I engage in cognitive science as a nerd is to prepare my mind with a large dose of humility. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to hold my ideas lightly so that when someone asks me to exchange a bad idea for a better idea, I'm not treating my ideas as if they are possessions, which I've been accessorizing. Because I've come across a lot of people, it's like all of their ideas, especially ideologies, systems of ideas, they take ideologies as like, my ideology is a possession, and I've been accessorizing this possession for like 10 years. And so when you try to attack their ideology, they're very aggressive about it. And I don't want any of my ideas to ever be like that. I think that I appreciate the likes of Alan Watts and Terence McKenna and their capacity to just play with ideas and kind of dance with them, and to, pass ideas to other people, and, kind of have that way
I
of thinking
care
about it.
more about what is true and what I can demonstrate
I disagree.
and that kind of thing.
I disagree. I think that reason is a slave of the passions. Truth is not passionate enough to be a leader. Like, the only thing which
What
guides
does that
human
even mean?
like you've heard, well, if you're not studied in philosophy, David Hume famously said, reason is and ought to be a slave of the passions, and it is useless toward any other aim. And when I first read that, there was like a day of depression where I was like trying to kind of overcome it, but then I realized I couldn't. It's like, when I wanted to marry my wife, I developed schemes and plans to get her to marry me, right? And she did. And when I woke up this morning, when I wanted breakfast, reason was a tool to get my breakfast. Like, having this conversation, reason is not a leader. It's a tool that you use to get the things you want. So the key is to check the things you want to make sure that your reason is being guided well.
I have no idea what any of that meant.
Hitler
Honestly.
used reason.
No.
Hitler had no reasons? You mean his speeches didn't contain arguments?
Yes, but he had reasons that stem from
His passions. Reasons. His reasons were a slave to his passions.
From an irrational hate of the Jews. It was a feeling thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was still reason. He said, I'm reasoning. These are my reasons, and my reasons are a slave to my passions. Your reasons right now are a slave to your passions. You're very passionate.
Yeah, I am very passionate, but I care about what's true, not how I feel about what is true.
I mean, you can say that. I mean, I know that sounds comfortable, but I mean, I've had to I've had to, I think, swallow a lot more discomfort. I don't think that, I believe I'm biased. It's
yes, heavily.
Yeah.
That's why you do what you do. Like, you use. I don't regularly encounter these philosophical arguments for God, but you're hijacking other research and trying to make. And then when I press you, at the very least, I got today from you that you are like a pantheist or whatever, like God is everywhere, God, we're all God, or some stuff like that, or how you said at the beginning, or we're all inside God, we're all parts, whatever. But when I push you on the Christianity, and then considering some of the stuff that you said about the Hindus and so on, I know people that will call you a heretic.
I don't care. I'm more interested in orthopraxy than orthodoxy.
I understand that, and that is fine, but
The distinction between
I mean,
orthopraxy and
it's a
orthodoxy
lot of
is
words without like. Can you demonstrate God to me? Not really.
you did.
No, I didn't.
It was sufficient.
Stop saying that,
It was
please.
sufficient for me.
It was sufficient for you, but it's not for me because you keep forgetting that we
You can
discovered that
you
I
can
am
claim
myself. Wow.
you can claim that you don't believe in God, but I mean that's all I mean when I say God. So maybe one of us.
Right. Okay. But now you're defining God as like me. Oh, okay. But
No, I think
unfortunately, I'm actually fortunately I am myself.
you have a color,
Not
you
God.
have a shape, you have a texture. That's not what you said.
I did say that.
You said colorless, shapeless texture. I wrote it all down.
Inside the time and space that is today, that is me.
Yeah, but
And
I'm gonna.
I lost track of how
But
many times you keep forgetting
no,
the fact that every single time I keep making that
no.
distinction.
It's not that I don't remember you saying that. It's that
No, is that you're purposely avoiding it. That's why I'm getting a little bit annoyed at
no,
that.
you're saying it's a brute fact. So why can't I ignore your brute facts? They're not brute facts to me. You haven't justified them. So
Is it a brute fact that I have a brain?
no. It's your
There we are.
it's your
To
opinion.
see, so you didn't prove God to me because you have to be dishonest.
I'm being dishonest.
Can we like be on our way? Because I was supposed.
No. You know, listen. You've given me far too much of your time. I deeply appreciate this interaction. I hope that we can come back together again. I hope that you can find.
Sure, I'll talk with one of my buddies that he's big on philosophy. He can dismantle all of this nonsense, and I can come back, or you can come to my channel.
Right, and the thing is, I mean, be careful as you poison the well. As someone who's not well versed in philosophy, calling something nonsense prepares your brain for some kind of situation.
I caught you in a couple of things that kind of telltale that it is nonsense. But
what is that?
The fact that you had to use spatial and temporal language to describe something that you had rejected not too long ago. The fact that you still cannot accept that it's a brute fact that the Homo sapiens sapiens species has a brain inside its skull.
Well, I mean,
those two things to me are enough to say, like, oh yeah, this is.
I think your philosophy
nonsense.
I think your philosopher friend will be able to distinguish the difference in what I'm saying. But hopefully
I think you will shred all of this. I'm pretty sure.
I think that's your hope. We'll say that's your hope.
No, I'm 99% sure. I mean, we'll make a video of it. You'll probably get to see it.
Okay, so I patiently await being shredded by your buddy. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate having you on, and we'll engage again.
Take care. Thank you so much.